and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of racing action in the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 4, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing, and sponsored by Higgins Automotive. Well, whilst the British Touring Car Championship calendar may have come to a close as of the previous weekend, we're here, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you all the touring car racing action that you absolutely love and want to see, and as our drivers continue to wind their way towards the concluding round of this season, only a week away. It is round 9 of 10 today, and we are here in the United States of America at the one and only Willow Springs International Raceway. Located in the state of California, the Kern County Circuit is a staple and the oldest road racing permanent circuit that has existed in the United States of America, having opened in 1953 and absolutely packed with history. It is a circuit that, while stemming only 2.5 miles in length and only consisting of a grand total of 9 corners, it is a circuit which is not to be underestimated. Made up of sweeping corners and straights, it's a full-on barrage when it comes to our drivers' senses with regards to their stamina and their ability to nail their apexes. And with there being no runoff areas here and the curbs being suspension shattering, this could be a round that causes momentum to change before we go into the season finale. And when we do have both our drivers' championships wide open and our team's championship ever closer than it has been before, you can imagine that tonight could really start to cause things to unravel for some drivers and cause others to rise to the ascendancy. As we get ready to go racing today, we welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. It's been brought to you by 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you have the 2 official Next Gen Racing broadcasts for this NXTGEN round, and those are firstly on YouTube at youtube.com, search for Next Gen Racing, and hello to you guys and girls on YouTube, including John O'Cook, who we can see in there. And we also say hello to you guys and girls on the official Facebook stream, which is brought to the Next Gen Racing Facebook group. That's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. And welcome to you on Facebook. And we also have the unofficial broadcast, which is being brought to you on Twitch. That's at twitch.tv/TX141. And welcome to you guys and girls on Twitch. And well, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action tonight and indeed for the remainder of the season. And as we can see, speaking of our schedule for tonight, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1 at UTC +1. In just under 18 minutes time, we'll be going into our qualifying session. 15 minutes in duration. All the drivers out there with plenty of qualifying laps to try and deliver, but who will take pole position? That'll be the big question. We'll be then going to our first race today, our free sprint race, of course, all of them 14 laps in duration. The first one at 8:15, and after that race does conclude and the checker flag waves, we'll take a brief breather before returning at just before what will be 9 o'clock for the build up to race number 2. Then after that, we've taken another brief breather after another 14 laps of racing action. But before that, of course, we will be having a reverse grid draw, and then when we return, it'll be just before 9:45 this evening, and it will be for our third and final race of the day. And after today, only 3 more races remain. My goodness, it sends a shiver down my spine to think that we are now in the closing stage of this championship, and today is the penultimate round. And just to give you a recap of where we have been around the globe, we started off back on the 8th of August at the Monza Grand Prix circuit in Italy, and what around that was seeing a 1-2 achieved by Doble Sim Racing and a 1-2 achieved by BT Motorsport. Both teams are absolutely delivering it in races 1 and 2 respectively, and it was a much more wide open course with a reverse grid race of race number 3. In round number 2, we made our way to the United Kingdom for the Snetterton 300 circuit, and with the extended British circuit there on the 15th of August absolutely delivering, and we got to see in the late stage of the racing Matthew Addy turn around all the bad luck he's had for the last couple of seasons and absolutely apply himself to the front of the field and take his name into the history books of becoming another prime driver to take an overall win in race number 3. Then we saw in round number 3 at the Road America circuit in the US state of Wisconsin on the 22nd of August. For our first visit there, it was definitely one to remember, with battles up and down the field, and Isaac Doe will find himself right in the midst of all the battle in the prime class, at that time Pro-Am class championship leader in the Higgins Automotive Championship, and it was really the turn of momentum there which started to see him be reeled back into the pack. Then round number 4, we made our way to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway. On the 29th of August, there were many stellar performances, but perhaps the one that was most notable was Russell Fowler in the Prime class, who seemed, after the first race of the day, to find something special in races 2 and 3, and bring on home an emphatic win in race number 3, in particular in the Audi RS3 for Performance Link Esports, and that completed our first section of the season. After which we had our first mid-season break, and then we returned on the 12th of September for the circuit Charles Villeneuve, and in Canada there, a circuit loved by many, including Alex Meredith. It wasn't to be Meredith's day for Chemi Tour E Motorsport, however it was was to be the rise of Lee Horn in the Pro-Am class, and at the front of the field we continue to see the rise of both Joseph and Mikey Doble, the two double sim racing drivers absolutely delivering in the overall championship. The Pro class drivers really pushing on strong. But we also had Dan Mould giving them hot pursuit, and in round number 6 on the 19th of September at Circuit Zandvoort, the Dutch circuit with its latest revision and its cambered corners now having been recently refreshed on the iRacing simulator service, we got to see Dan Mould and the Doble brothers battle hard, but we also got to see plenty other drivers enjoy great racing at the front of the field, and we also got to see the building rides of some of the drivers from further down the order, including Full Vehicle Motorsports, what was Motegi battling for top 10s in class. And then we had our second mid-season break, and we returned for what was round number 7 on the 3rd of October at the Circuit Zolder in Belgium, and the lesser-known, arguably Belgian circuit, or everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit compared to Spa-Francorchamps. I think many of our drivers absolutely loved it there and might consider it their favourite, given how close the battling was through the stellar chicanes of the circuit. And in round number 8, we made our way to Japan last time for the Twin Rim Motegi circuit. On the Grand Prix circuit there, well, again, we got to see another Pro-Am driver take an overall win in race number 3, and it was an absolutely stoic defence from Aztec Racing's Matthew Cheverton, and as much as everybody behind him pushed him to the absolute limit on the 10th of October, nobody could find a way past his car that was at least 3 car widths wide. But today is the 17th of October, and it's Willow Springs International Raceway, and after today we'll be making our way over to Australia for the one and only Mount Panorama Raceway, and on the 24th of October at the Bathurst circuit we bring it all to a close with the question, who is going to be the king of the mountain, and will that king also be crowned champion come the end of the season? Now, to give you a reminder of the championship standings after what has been a fantastic 8 rounds of racing action so far, we start off with the overall Drivers' Championship, and as we can see, Joseph Doble leads the way on 819 points to 787 of Dan Mould. Joseph Doble, despite having difficulty at Twin Rim Motegi, qualifying poorly, in race number 1 he found a way to start to make his way through the field, and in races 2 and 3 he pulled off a brilliant set of results, even though it seemed as though fortune was going to try and go against him every step of the way. And that's why he's been able to hold on to what has been a strong 32-point lead over Dan Mould, who continues to rise and now finds himself in P2. And keep your eyes out for the SRL drive today. He will be targeting what will be a victory in at least one race if he wants to close that gap and give himself the chance to try and dethrone Doble right at the end. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble drops to P3 on 776 points, not having the fortunes of his brother Joseph, but still well within the hunt there, and don't count him out in the fact there's plenty of points to be scored from round to round and race to race, so therefore it is a three-way fight for the top of the championship at the moment. And we also don't have to factor in the drop scores as yet. They will be factored in going into the season finale next week, so these standings are definitely going to shift, keeping in mind, of course, that a good number of drivers may have 0 scores to be accounted for, and when those are applied, well, it is going to be wide open once again. But still, that's the theoretical for next week. Let's stay with the physical right now, and we can see Gavin Garner in P4 on 726 points. You're not going to be seeing the NXTGEN Racing at Team Pink driver on the grid today. Unfortunately, he's going to be missing this round, but that does mean it acts as his drop score round. He gives himself a 0 score to work with, and he's only 1 point clear of the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pike in P5. Pike really has been one of the rising stars in the second half of the season, and it could be said the same for his teammate Kieran Sharp in P6 on 710 points, making the Honda go strong. Ahead of that, Jamie Dory, John Higgins Jr., Lee Horn, and Nick Clemens to complete your top 10. And Lee Horn, your leading Pro-Am in the overall championship, and right now, the favourite in the Pro-Am class, as we'll see shortly, to take the Higgins Automotive Championship come the season finale. But also keep your eyes on Nick Clemens there, who is going for the overall right to be the best Pro-Am come the end of the season for iRace Esports. In P11, it's Isaac Doble on 458 points, and let's not count out the fact that Isaac Doble could break his way back into the top 10 at any point, ahead of Matthew Addy, with Alan McCain, Benjamin McCluskey, and Russell Fowler completing your top 15. Reswap P16 on 379 points. The JW Motorsport driver once again finding frustration in Japan at the last time out, and not quite the results he wanted, and definitely one of those drivers right now who's had bad luck come his way more often than not. And Ian Manners, his teammate, only a further 31 points behind there in P17, ahead of Alex Meredith, Paul Scott, and Matthew Cheverton, who has had a huge boost of points since last round and has moved into the top 20 for the first time this season. Looking outside the top 20 overall, P21, it's Bobby Thompson, who we haven't seen on the grid for the last few rounds, so therefore dropping it down the order there. But still, we look forward to the day when he does return to the grid. But meanwhile, a regular on the grid, Ben Alchier for Full Tilt V Motorsport on 258 points. He holds P22 and is trying to break his way into that top 20 tonight. Michael Lees is a further 2 points behind, ahead of the pro of Adam Delmont, who in what is now the Audi, I believe it's the Hyundai Veloster, looking to try and find some velocity in order to move his way back up the standings. Luke Jones P25 ahead of Shane Piggott, with Mark Sykes, Stephen Daly, Jonathan Collins, and Josh Millington completing your top 30. It's Ian Will P31. Keep your eyes out for the driver on 105 points at the moment. He's continuing to find his form and building pace each and every race, which is fantastic to see, and that's what it's all about. Head of Bernardo Colby, P32. William Guthrie, P33, down 101 points. Having made his debut only a round ago, and a great start to his season for Guthrie, albeit in the Pro Class there. He'll know he's still got to get plenty more points, and really I think this is a tester for what will be Season 5 coming up later this year, and all the details of Season 5 will be laid out on the table at the end of the season finale broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you're looking to sign up for Season 5, and tell you one thing already, you haven't got long to wait to find out those details, but I promise you it's going to be incredible, and Season 4 has been incredible, so, well, how can you beat that? That's the big question, but we'll hold that thought for now, as meanwhile we can then see Jack Southfield at P34 ahead of Neil Ferrier, and it's Mark Ken, Dan Holland, Wayne Douglas, Lucas Kolch, and then we can see Vivoet in P40. Luciano Vivoet ahead of what is Dan Lewis, Daniel Fritz, Josh Brown, Georgia Belay, Andrew Holmes, James Pascal, Costa Continental, James Affleck, Chris Rance, and Jake Peer, and that is your overall championship standings. But now coming on to the Higgins Automotive Prime Championship for this season, we can see it's Lee Horn who leads the way for the drivers on 857 points, and whilst that gap standing now at a grand total of what is there, if our mathematics do not deceive us, of 74 points, it is an assailable 74 points for Nick Clibbins. It does make Lee Horn the favourite going into these last two rounds, given the fact he really has been the man to beat, and there has been the running hashtag in the community, Lee Horn for Pro. However, at the same time, he's earned the right to be there, and Nick Clibbins is keeping him honest every step of the way. And Isaac Doble, whilst the last couple of rounds have not been kind to the Doble Sim Racing driver, he's moved himself back into P3 and only 13 points off of Clibbins. And could we see a late resurgence from Doble? Indeed, he'll be targeting it, given the fact in the opening 3 rounds he was the favourite of the championship. Matthew Addy, P4, meanwhile, only a further 2 points behind, and again finding his form late in the day. And that's the thing about this class right now. Lee Horn has been the consistent driver. Clibbins has found his form in the midpoint of the season and continues to build, but everybody else who started off strong is now finding their form once again. And Russell Fowler was dropped to P5 on 762 points. At one point we were thinking he was going to be trying to push away as the favourite, but now he finds himself back into the bottom end of the top 5, and can he find that form from Fuji and bring it back to the top? Alan McCain a further, 6 points behind in P6, ahead of Reese White in P7, who has an outside opportunity to still go hunting for the title. But what it does mean, ladies and gentlemen, is the top 7 are separated by 137 points, and if anybody inside that top 7 has a perfect day today or a strong day today, they could leap their way all the way up towards the top. Paul Scott, meanwhile, in P8, battles to the right in 646 points to hold off Ian Manners, only weighs 11 points between them. There's Alex Meredith, P10 there, continuing to hold on to the top 10, albeit his grip looking a little bit tenuous, with Michael Lees in P11 at the moment, best of the rest, and only weighs 11 points clear at Ben Altria. Matthew Sheraton, P13, ahead of Mark Sykes, with Luke Jones, P15, and then we have Ian Will, P16, moving further up the order and looking to break into the top 15 today, albeit the gap there of what is a grand total of 67 points, quite a large one to hunt down Jones, but Wood's going to give it everything he's got, ahead of Jonathan Collins, and then Shane Piggott, Lucas Kolch, and Bernardo Colby complete your top 20. And outside the top 20, not to be forgotten about, we've got Mark Kent, P21 on 230 points, and great to see him back on the grid now, becoming more regular after the difficulties he had midway through the season. He's ahead of Giorgio Belay, and then Daniel Fritz, Dan Lewis, Josh Brown complete your top 25, head of Costa Continental, James Pascal, Jonathan Cook, Chris Rance, James Pascal, and last but not least, Ben Schilstra. But now we come on to the Teams Championship, and while you thought the Drivers' Championships were closed, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. The top 3, they are separated by only 18 points, and it is Doble Sim Racing who have rooted themselves to the top of those standings. They have not fallen out of the top since what was round number 4, and I can tell you one thing right now, the Doble family are doing everything to hold on, but the Sim Racing Collective are inching closer. 6 points is the deficit, and then NXTGEN Racing Pink have clawed their way back into this title fight, only a further 12 points behind, and well, it's wide open. But of course, keeping in mind that NXTGEN Pink today will be down one of their most prominent members in the form of Gavin Gardner, so Jamie Doyle will have to do everything he can, and it'll be to Wayne Douglas and Benjamin McCluskey to try and pick up the gap. Then we do see Sam Case with NXTGEN in P4 on 976 points, and they have the rising threat of JW Motorsport, who are just over 100 points behind, with iRace Esports there in P6 and closing on the top 5. Meanwhile, in the battle for P7, it's joint 734 points for SRL and Mark Sykes Designs, with SRL ahead based on result countback, and both of them battling for the right to hunt down the top 5 in the late stage of this season. But we have Pornsling Esports and Chemical Motorsport complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, by the best part of which 63 points, is BT Motorsport. We haven't seen the drivers on the grid for the last couple of rounds, and meanwhile, Aztec Racing are looking to try and leapfrog them today, and they could do so if they can pick up 14 or more points to their name, with Full Tilt V Motorsport P13 ahead of Team XR by KC Motorsport, and Ace of Spades Racing complete your top 15, and then our final three teams, Whiskey Runners for Next Gen, CS, KC and Mally Motors, and last but not least, Stone Cold Digital HHR. Now, coming on to our circuit for today. We talked about it earlier. It's the 9-corner track of Willow Springs International Raceway, also known as Big Willow. Its original nickname, and also given the title of the fastest road in the West. This circuit located near the municipality of Rosamond in Kern County in the state of California in the United States of America. It is an old school circuit. You won't find many runoffs around here, ladies and gentlemen, and if you go to the circuit in the summer, you'll find it's surrounded by desert. However, in the winter or the cooler months, you'll find it surrounded by grass, and that's perhaps why this circuit does have a bit of an unfair reputation of being the deserted circuit in the middle of the desert. However, as our drivers go racing around here, as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com. Thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. This is a circuit that is going to keep our drivers on their toes all the way from start to finish. For as they make their way down the start-finish straight and in towards turn number 1 at Castrol Corner, they'll charge for the sweeping left-hander with a bit of camber also in the mix. And as they make their way up towards Rabbits here at turn number 2, now it's all going to be about turning in and balancing the throttle and finding the right time to return to full throttle before you make your way uphill through the chicane at turn 3 into 4. Going uphill for the left into the right, going up towards Budweiser Balcony in reference to the beer manufacturer and therefore sponsorship deal. They'll make their way over the rise at turn number 4, the highest point of the circuit, and then plummet their way down into the deep left-hander at turn number 5. There it's about making sure not to go too deep and keep it tight to the apex to set up the road through Monroe Ridge at turn number 6, and there as they come over the crest, it's flat out all the way through Wings Leg at turn number 7, the kink before the sweeper of turn 8, the never-ending right-hander that very late on suddenly tightens, and when our drivers make the way all the way out towards turn number 9, they'll need to find the right point to brake whilst having steering lock applied in order to get the car into turn number 9 and bring the speed down to make the corner and return to full throttle, and they've got to do it with perfection because that follows onto the start-finish straight, and whilst it looks short on paper, it is the longest straight on this circuit arguably, and as our drivers make the way out, they'll reach their top speed as they cross the finish line only to go once again. But as we come on to our rules for today, let's remind you this is a fixed setup series with all setups provided ahead of each and every round. Driver class wise, these were finalised as of round 3. We do have a new driver on the grid today who we will introduce very shortly, and we'll tell you a little bit about their class and their background. Sprint race wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid shall be set based on the results of race number 1, so the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race number 2, and such forth. The race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid meanwhile, based on results of race number 2, but the caveat is the reversal position is drawn live from between P13 and P23, so we'll cut to the commentary booth, and as always, we'll use the Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl to divinate exactly where that reverse grid will be taken from. Now, each driver shall have 1 fast repair available in each race. I do believe, in fact, it's been up to 2, given the high threshold of suspension parts being damaged over the curbs around this circuit, and each race will conclude after either allotted lap amount of 30 minutes, whichever one occurs first. We're expecting the racing to conclude after approximately 20 minutes of racing, that'll be 14 laps, or if we have safety cars, then it will be extended up to a grand total of 30 minutes. Now, race stewarding wise, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of the safety car. And penalty-wise, on the track limit side, the first to second warnings, there's no penalty, it's just a warning. The third warning is a 5-second post-race time penalty. It's doubled to 10 seconds on the fourth warning. And on the fifth warning, it's a drive-through penalty. And those drive-through penalties must be served within 3 laps, and all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. And to remind you, we are applying success ballast for this season, and it's applied on a race-by-race basis. So the top 10 in the overall championship take the top 10 success ballast into qualifying and the first race of the day, and then we update it based on the top 10 overall finishers at the end of race 1. They'll be carrying the weight into race number 2, and we do the same based on the top 10 overall finishers in race number 2. They'll carry the weight into race number 3. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough nattering about rules. We head back to the circuit here, and as our drivers get themselves all comfortably set, well, right now parked up in the pit lane, that's none other than SRL's Dan Mould. He's getting himself all comfortably set. He's only got a minute to go. Indeed, everybody has until we go into that qualifying session. I think the pressure is going to be on our drivers as much as humanly possible in terms of looking to get things right, but meanwhile looking to the man who's third place in the Pro Championship, or at least the overall championship we should really say, and that's Double Sim Racing's Mikey Doble here, and absolutely fired up and ready to go, and knowing that today he really does need to hunt perfection to bring himself right back into that hunt versus brother Joseph and also Dan Mould, who's leapfrogged ahead of him. But again, anything can happen as he makes his way on through. And we said there's a new driver on the grid for this round, and indeed there is, and you will see Jaroslav Sabula, who's in the pit lane there, the Semper Racing driver in the number 14. He'll be going to the circuit today in, I do believe, the Hyundai Elantra, and well, as he gets himself set off in the distance there, we'll definitely keep you updated on how he does in his debut in the Prime class. Glad to see him on the grid, and we wish him all the best luck for today. And I know he's been welcomed very fondly by all the drivers up and down the grid. Indeed, it's always good to see a new driver there as we look to Ben Altria for Full Tilt V Motorsport making his way through turn number 9. And what a wonderful day here it is in California. Sunshine is out, a little bit of cloud out there as well, but with the sunshine, of course, comes the heat on the circuit as Altria knows he's on camera, flashing his lights. Checker flag is out, ladies and gentlemen, on this final practice warm-up session. And now it's for our drivers to go into qualifying. 15 minutes. Who will be on pole come the end of it? Let's find out. As that story begins to get underway, we do look to our drivers making the way out the pit lane, and including Jamie Dory, the number 1 driver, defending overall champion from Season 3, reminding you of the fact that so far the overall championship has gone to only 2 drivers in the 3-season history of this series, twice to Jamie Dory, once to Mikey Doble, and last season it came down to what was a split in terms of who had picked up the most wins and then the most podiums. Such was the case that Jamie Dory and Mikey Doble were even on points after 10 rounds of racing. You could not have cut it finer, ladies and gentlemen, and this season definitely proving to be incredibly tight as well between our drivers as they all get ready to go once again. And as Dory makes his way up through turns 3 into 4 right now, all drivers getting themselves out onto the circuit as quickly as possible here, and that gives us an opportunity to say hello to a good number of you in the chat, including there in the YouTube chat. We mentioned him earlier, but we're going to say his name again, John O'Cook, or Jonathan Cook, who is cheering on Russell Fowler today. Speaking of whom, here is the Performance Lane Esports driver, and we see Fowler looking good so far in the Audi RS3. And we also say hello there to Handsome Stu in the YouTube chat, who's always looking good as always. And welcome to you, Stu. Also to Alex Meredith, who is in the car now and making his way around on circuit, saying, making sure to get the interior cam ready to see our broken suspension. And well, we do have a little something to show you shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We have some new cameras available for this broadcast today. We also say hello there to John Higgins, as in John Higgins Senior in the YouTube chat, who's all back and ready for what should be an epic night of racing. And he was watching at practice last night and saw it was quite interesting with regards to drivers falling off circuit and also suspensions being collapsed on the cars, and also some great battling in the practice races. We also say hello to Michael Price there. Good evening to you, Michael. How are you doing? Well, as we do see Fowler going wide out the final corner. Very easy to make that mistake, and returns there very gradually indeed as he makes way back onto the circuit. You can see he has to stay offline for quite some time, and the dirt he'll be putting onto his tyres will not help, and it's going to take him at least half a lap to get the tyres back up to where they want to be in terms of those grip levels. But as we look to Luciano Vidvoet making his way on around their turn number 2, we also say hello there to Tampax Comfort in the YouTube chat, who says, I might need a bucket next to the rig for this race, had too much takeaway, all good as we. Well, that's not too good. Hopefully it doesn't end up going the wrong way for you there, Tampax Comfort. We also say hello in the Twitch chat to GZen High, who says, saw the post about Mikey Doble almost winning the Jack Sears Trophy in BTC. See, very cool and so awesome to see that in the league. And indeed, Mikey out there just missing out on the Jack Sears Trophy, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, doing an absolutely brilliant job in his debut season of BTCC, and well, can he carry on that momentum here tonight? That will be the big challenge. As we also say hello to Alan Louvre in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on Ian Manners. And we're speaking of Ian Manners as he makes his way on down there, getting a little bit claustrophobic going down through turn 4 into 5. I think everybody right now trying to set themselves up, and the big question is, of course, how do you set yourself up for success at the Willow Springs International Raceway? Well, the thing you've got to do around here is you've got to have full commitment. This really is a circuit where you as a driver in qualifying need to know how wide this circuit is and how much you can push. Every mile now you can take from corner to corner is critical. We say that at every circuit, but around here, when there are no runoff areas for you to be able to use or dip a wheel wide, it means that you as the driver need to make the most of the road surface available to you. You need to know how wide your car is, how close you can get to the curves, how close you can get to the white lines on the outside of the circuit. When you put all that together, that is how you master Willow Springs Raceway. You have to have precision. And as Manners crosses the line there, he goes P16 at provisional on a 24.451, but also the slipstream around here will be very powerful. It's not going to be Monza levels in terms of how much time it's going to deliver, but we believe the slipstream around here could be worth about half a second if you nail it in terms of picking up the starter lap and you carry it all the way through, particularly the back end of the lap through turn 6 onwards towards turn number 9. But as he makes his way on through, we'll also see and say hello there to John Meredith in the Facebook chat, who says, this is a track I've not seen for a while, looking forward to the race tonight. And will sand on the track be a concern for the drivers? And definitely we are expecting, particularly if there's a bit of wind here, some sand may be blown across the circuit, as we do see there. In terms of weather conditions, it's 18 degrees centigrade currently and the ambient temperature, and your track temperature it's almost at 40 degrees centigrade. It's 39, and we do have quite a strong wind over the circuit at the moment of 16 miles an hour, and that will be blowing sand and dust across the circuit, and that could mean that the grip levels of this circuit continue to evolve and change, and what might be a very grippy circuit to begin with going into racing may end up becoming a much slipperier circuit as time goes on. And with all that track temperature as well, you put it together and it means that this circuit definitely will be a volatile circuit even over the individual qualifying laps. But as we clear those conditions from the side of screen, ladies and gentlemen, I believe our overlay just briefly doing a bit of a disappearing moment there. We do apologise, but it is now back together and all good here. And as our drivers make the way on through, well, meanwhile, Ian Manners making his way on around still P14. But we need to bring you an on-board lap with one of our drivers around here. And, well, without further ado, I think we will be getting an on-board lap very shortly with what is Michael Lease as he heads on around in the Hyundai Veloster as he heads up towards the timeline here. Let's jump on board and see how he gets on. So making his way up towards turn number 1 and keeping the car over to the right side here and letting it creep on over gradually. He's going to send improved lap from P21 and braking into turn number 1. No real brake marker here, and as he comes down to 4th gear through left hand and now up towards turn number 2. Going into rabbits here, and again, no brake marker to really count. You've got to do it some muscle memory. Drops a gear, drops the number to 4th gear, and just balance the throttle. Let the car gradually nose in as he makes his way on around. And now up towards turn number 3 he goes, holding 4th gear, getting ready to bring the car over the right hand side here for turn number 3. And as he does so, up to 5th gear, now dropping down to 3rd on the brakes. Oh, letting go on the rear end, just rides the curb, catches it in time with that rear brake bias, and using the curbs as much as possible as he dares to dream to do so, as he goes over the right of turn number 4, and now down towards turn number 5. He goes it up to 3rd, up to 4th, quick shifting, and now braking, but goes a bit too far, and I think hitting those curbs has damaged the car for Lease, and that is going to be a trip to the pit lane there, and the Willow Springs Raceway circuit catching Lease out early on. We'll have to try and get another on-board lap with one of our drivers in due order, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do say hello to Catherine Meredith there in the YouTube chat, who's looking forward to the racing, and of course they'll all be cheering on what is the son of the family, Alex Meredith, as you see him here. And well, we'd love to see Alex Meredith right back up there, and I know his family and his fan group definitely would love to see him take a podium or two in the prime class today. And the Chemical E Motorsport Elantra driver here all getting set and ready to go, as he is currently P20 behind Jamie Dory there, tucking into the toe. Dory meanwhile by comparison at P7 as they wind the way on through up towards turn number 9. And the key point being here with regards to our drivers in the fact that for Meredith right now, I think he'll be observing what Dory's doing, trying to follow Dory's lines and pick up the toe as well, add it all together and give himself a little bit of extra lap time. And as they head to the line, well, he's on an improving lap so far, improved in sectors 1 and 2. What's it going to be in sector 3? As McCluskey has set a purple final sector, Meredith goes P2 on a 22.025, so definitely sitting in the shadow there of Dory. Has proven very powerful. It runs wide a little bit out of turn number 1, brings it back together before going into turn number 2, and nice run there for Alex Meredith, and definitely an important lap to get in the midpoint of this qualifying session. And I think in the zone now, more time can trickle in, as meanwhile John Higgins Jr. moves up to P13 on a 22.541. Remember, he won some success ballast in the car given his championship standings position. I believe the P7 balance being applied to the car, and as we do see him making his way on through in the number 5, will the Sim Racing Collective Elantra, looking sharp, looking shiny out there, and also looking quite good at the moment. We've still got a way to go in this qualifying session, and speaking of a driver who's got a way to go as he runs wide there out of 2 in towards 3, that's Joseph Doble, current championship leader overall, and I think right now that 56.1 kilograms of success balance is hurting him as he hits a curve in the entry to turn number 3, and that has caused caused him to lose his racing line up to 4, and that's going to be a return to the pits immediately. The suspension of the car being absolutely hammered there, and there's the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. 2 drivers at least, and also Joseph Doble, both getting it wrong going through 3 and hitting the curb, and in doing so having to immediately be towed to the pits due to damage it causes. But meanwhile, one driver has avoided the dangerous curve so far, and he seems to be right now the danger man in terms of he's going to be taking pole position. He raises the bar there to a 21.903 for pole. It's Benjamin McCluskey, the next-gen racing driver, runs wide out of 1, carrying all the speed, and right now looking good. Meanwhile, Luciano Vivoet makes his way into P7 on a 22.293. It's only 4/10 off of that pole lap, and we've only seen what is, well, I was going to say, we've only seen 121 so far, and then Mikey Doble says, hold up a second, I'm going to make it. We've seen 2 of them now, because he sets a 21.942 there, and a good effort from the Doble Sim Racing driver, and that's exactly what he needs as a remedy after the difficulties of Japan last week, as he makes his way on through turn number 2. But as he does so here, meanwhile, we do look to one of the drivers making the way a bit further on around the lap, and in particular we are going to be looking, I believe, to Sam Smith. In fact, he's just a little bit further behind Mikey Doble as we look to the iRacing Esports drive coming up through turn number 2 in towards 3. We haven't seen Smith on the grid for the last couple of rounds, but very happy to see him back, the pro driver, coming on an out lap there, 2.6 seconds off of the overall pole time. But I think just finding his feet right now, well, he's put some practice in, but this qualifying session still is relatively young, albeit 5 minutes to go plus the overtime, and Smith there deciding to veer wide, letting other drivers go on through, running a bit wide there as he falls off the circuit, but rejoins in the run down towards turn number 5. But you can see when he has to give space, he's got to get off a racing line. There's very little room to do so as well, and that means battling around here is going to be absolutely intense as he makes his way through 6 and on towards turn number 8. But he charges on through. Meanwhile, we do look to Mikey Doe as he heads on to another lap. Well, it's not going to be an improving lap this time, but you can see more Higgins Jr. tucking into the tyre. He's got the overspeed there as Higgins Jr. Is it enough to move him up from P12? It is not, unfortunately, and therefore he stays where he is. Meanwhile, some of the other drivers making the way on around it, including Adam Delmont, and it's Delmont who we jump on board with here for a flying lap. So he makes his way up towards turn at number 1 and into the braking zone. Braking into the corner, he's got a car on the apex, he dodged it in the Honda Civic Type R just in time. 4th gear as he makes his way through 1 and up towards 2. And this Honda all about the corners, not about the straights. He comes into the corner, turns in nice and early, drops the gear there to get the car to slow down slightly, a bit of engine braking as he maintains that close apex, which is the exact line you want, and then just let the car gradually roll out. A little bit of gravel there as he now makes his way up towards turn number 3, onto the brakes, about 100 metres from corner apex, down a 2nd gear, having to balance the car on the steering wheel now, up into turn number 4, into the Budweiser corner as he comes over the rise, and then down he begins his descent, out of the corner, lets the car roll out before bringing it over to the right. Now onto the brakes nice and early here, about 150 metres from the corner apex point, 3rd gear as he rolls on through, and now hunk the apex at turn number 6, full throttle, but you've got to commit, you cannot let go of the steering wheel whatsoever, or let the angle go, as always the car will roll wide, and now through 7 and up towards turn number 8, the long sweeper he goes. Now listen closely to the throttle, ladies and gentlemen. And he near the full throttle until he needs to put the brakes on it, down 2 gears, and now back on the throttle immediately. And as he makes his way through, that's why the final corner is so difficult, because you have no brake marker and you've got to come off throttle onto steering lock and at the same time get the brakes on. But Delman doing it justice, and as he crosses the line, does he improve? Not quite. It's a 22.329, close to what he's previously done. Only a 10th off his previous best, and I think losing it in that 1st sector. But Delmont giving us a great demonstration of how it's done here at the Willow Springs Raceway circuit as he makes his way on around in the next-gen racing Honda Civic Type R. Still plenty of time to go in this session with 3 more laps. And as he heads up the hill towards turn number 3, meanwhile, it is still McCluskey, who is your provisional pole sitter, 400ths faster than Mikey Doble, and then Guthrie a further, what is 6,000ths behind William Guthrie, and Guthrie looking good so far is the Full Tilt B Motorsport driver, and will definitely showed a lot of promise on his debut in Japan last time out at the Motegi circuit, and now looking to go one step further here and perhaps take his first pole position of the season. But he makes way through it. Dan Mould, they're going a bit slowly coming on through turn number 6. McCluskey not improving from his previous best, coming very close to improving. Only what was there, the best part of 18,000ths off, so McCluskey still looking for time, but as he makes his way around, meanwhile Alex Meredith is currently a provisional pole sitter in the prime class. He's only at 1/10 himself off of the overall pole, and he's only 200ths faster than Reese Watt. Speaking of Reese Watt, Here he is, bringing along with him, I do believe, Ian Manners behind. And, well, neither one of them improving here. Russell Fowler now goes P2 and takes prime pole position on a 21.930. So this circuit is getting faster in the very late stage of this session. And right now, nothing's stagnating. The only thing that is stagnating right now, perhaps, is our drives further down the order. And perhaps the biggest shock of them all right now, P25, ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Doble, who is struggling in this qualifying session. Sam Smith moves to P27 on 23.818. But Joseph Doble right now, we are getting echoes here of Motegi in the fact his qualifying session saw him start at the bottom end of the top 20 almost, but he found his way through, and Doble's having to do this again here today. He may be doing it from the bottom end of the top 25, even outside of it, things stay as they are, because Sheraton's just moved into P25 for Aztec Racing on a 22.858. We've got a minute to go, so our drivers are not on their final qualifying laps now. They will be very shortly, and well, for Joseph Doble, can he pull out some last lap magic, or will this be an uphill battle every step of the way before Bathurst? We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, looking at Russell Fowler with Alex Meredith in the pit lane. Meredith will not be going out once again, and therefore he'll be starting at the highest P6 or P2 in Pro-Am. Provisional, of course, with drivers still on laps. Kieran Sharp's heading to the timeline. What can he do? He's gone P7 as Kieran Sharp. Meanwhile, that's Andrew Pike going through the bottom of your screen, and he does not improve with the Sim Racing Collective. He's still got 30 seconds to go. But as our drivers all come across the line, who else could perhaps improve now in terms of those lap times out there? With Joseph Doble goes back to P25. Paul Scott moves up to P14 as he heads on around the circuit, and meanwhile behind him, Mikey Doble still in the tow at a distance, trying to find another edge to get himself back onto that front row of the grid. 10 seconds to the checker flag comes on out here, and therefore drivers are running out of time now. But meanwhile, we look to Nick Clearvins, who's in a little bit of a lonely run here through turn number 2, albeit I say that he does have some cars in front of him to act as a little bit of a character chase in terms of trying to pick up the tow. But checker flag is out, and well, we have just had the drivers cross the start-finish line. Not quite sure what that was. That's Matthew Sheraton, who goes P24, so all the lap times now are coming on in. Meanwhile, Benjamin McCluskey makes his way to line. Does he improve? He's given the tow to Jamie Dory. I think Dory will be grateful for this, given the fact that currently Dory is down in P18. Does Dory find a bit more time out there, given the fact he's half a second off a pole? That's how close it is. Top 26 separated by less than a second. Meanwhile, Russell Fowler's off. That's on the exit of turn number 6 into 7. So Fowler there having a late moment, and as a result will not be improving on this lap. Can anybody else steal it away from him? Well, it's going to be Reese Watt as he makes his way on through. This is the closest we've seen in qualifying all season in terms of practically the entire field is separated by a second. And as they make their way across the line, Watt and Manners goes purple in the prime class in the final sector, and Manners doesn't quite do enough, but it's P4 on the grid for Manners with 21.947. Mikey Doble does get back onto the front row with 21.927, but can anybody else find any more magic out there? Well, Michael Lees is heading to line. He's on a good lap based on his Sector 1. His Sector 2 has been nothing to improve upon, but meanwhile Sector 3, well, I think he might not have improved in the end. He's currently 3.5 tenths off a pole, and that's where he's going to stay. It's not an improvement for Lees. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean your final driver on the lap right now is Matthew Sheraton, but he's into the pit lane, so it is going to be Benjamin McCluskey who takes overall pole by 24 thousandths over Mikey Doble on that front row, and it's going to be a prime second row with Russell Fowler edging Ian Manners in the end by the best part of 17 thousandths. We have got a recipe for rough, rugged and rudimentary racing here at Willow Springs Raceway International, and who will be coming out on top come the end of race number 1? Well, 14 laps will decide that, but either way you look at it, this has been a phenomenal qualifying session. Top 26 out of 29 entrants today, separated by under 9.5 tenths, and that is the closest we've seen all season. And we've got a 30th car on the grid in the form of Wayne Douglas just joining. He'll start from the back, but here's the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 1 in round number 9 of season 4 of the NXTGEN, brought to you on iRacing and sponsored by Higgins Automotive. It is Benjamin McCluskey who takes pole position for Next Gen Racing ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble. On row number 2, it's the prime pair of Russell Fowler, the pole sitter of the class for Performance Link Esports, ahead of JW Motorsports' Ian Manners. On row number 3, it's William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Motorsport, joined by Bram Esports' Luciano Vivoet, with Alex Meredith starting P7 for Chemical E Motorsport, ahead of the Sim Racing Collective's Kieran Sharp. Reese Watt starts P9 there for JW Motorsport, ahead of Dan Mould for SRL. A difficult qualifying session for Mould, but still just inside that top 10. Ahead of Nick Clemens, who starts at the 6th row for iRace Esports in P11. Mark Sykes designs Adam Delwin alongside P12. On row number 13, it's Jaroslav Sabula on his debut for Semper Racing, taking P13, ahead of Paul Scott for Sam Cases with NXTGEN. And then we do have Michael Lees P15 for Mark Sykes Designs, with Sam Case with NXTGEN, Matthew Addy P16. On row number 9, it's John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective, joined by NXTGEN Racing Pink's Jamie Dorey. And then completing the top 20, it's Mark Sykes for Mark Sykes Designs, and Sam Case with NXTGEN's Lee Horn. On row 11, it's Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective, joined there by Double Sim Racing's Isaac Doble. A difficult qualifying session for Isaac. And then Ben Altrier and Matthew Sheraton on row number 12 for Full Tilt B Motorsport and Aztec Racing. And then on row number 13, it's Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Joseph Doble for Double Sim Racing. And he's going to fight his way through the field from the back of it, effectively, with Sam Smith at P27 for iRacing Esports, Ian Wild at P28 for CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors, Jonathan Collins and Wayne Douglas now being your 15th and final row for Whiskey Runners with NXTGEN and NXTGEN Racing Pink. But that's the field, ladies and gentlemen, and as they all gradually line up now, we are only moments away from going racing for the first time here at the Californian circuit in Kern County, and Big Willow will be playing host to our drivers here for 3 races today. The first one is coming up. Everybody is set. We are only now the lights away, and here are the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go with Benjamin McCluskey seeming to start the start for Mikey Doble as well. But look at this from Ian Manners and Russell Fowler. They're literally doing the reverse Moses on the P2 driver. And as they make the way into the opening corner here, well, McCluskey does find a gear in the end. But meanwhile, Fowler and Manners get the leap. And Mikey Doble down to P4. And as they charge their way in towards turn number 2, into the braking zone they go. It's too wide for many a driver here. Guthrie looking to hold around the outside of Kieran Sharp and trying to make progress. Everyone safely made it through the opening corner. But now as they charge their way up towards turn number 3, this is where things are now going to start to get very close. Cold ties as well. We've got Adam Delman off the road, a couple of drives further back off the road as well, but still plenty of 2 wides here as they wind their way up the hill. And as they do so, looking further back, the field is now starting to concertina quite hard. Mark Sykes there keeping the number drives behind in the battle side by side with Matthew Sheraton. If it was P20, so bottom into the top 20 here, but they're all staying close as they wind on through. And now Sheraton's got clear, so has Isaac Doble by looks of things, and Sykes seemingly struggling on an off racing line. Meanwhile, running a bit wide there was the iRacing Esports car, almost going wide of Sam Smith as they made the way up towards Wings Leg. Meanwhile, we look back up towards your leader here of Benjamin McCluskey, who is already pulling away, and keep in mind he has got no success ballast in that car. Mikey Doble, meanwhile, back ahead of Ian Manners, but Russell Fowler ahead of him still as they make the way into turn number 9. And then it's going to be Guthrie versus what is here, I do believe, Reese Watt. That is going to be very tight between the two of them. Dan Mould on the back of them as they make the way up towards the start-finish line. That's 1 lap complete. And after 1 lap of racing, it's McCluskey ahead of Fowler, followed by Mikey Doble, Ian Manners, Luciano with Bowitt, Kieran Sharp, William Guthrie, Reese Watt, Dan Mould, Nick Clements, and Alex Meredith, who is best to rest P11. But a bit of contact there on the rear of Guthrie's car. Car wide, that's Meredith going wide out of turn number 1. That's going to cost him some speed in 2 places. Up around the outside goes Jaroslav Sabula as they roll on through, and behind them, meanwhile, we still have the battle here between John Higgins Jr. and the rest of the field tucked in behind. I think Higgins Jr. at the moment proving to be a little bit of a thorn here as they wind their way up the hill. And as they do so, we can see the long line of cars following him all the way up towards turn number 3 into the braking zone. That is Dory ahead of Pike. We have got a car that's gone off slightly as we lose Higgins Jr. Oh, goodness me, and what on earth has happened there? Car off the road. Dan Mould's one of them. I think Reese Watt as well as the other. It's ended up in a bit of disaster there as we have also got a couple of lockups making the way out turn number 4 into 5. Joseph Doble still battling side by side with Ben Altrier. We'll have to hold the fort of right on board, looking back from the rear Higgins Jr.'s car as we've got a car going slowly there coming out of turn number 5. That was Andrew Pike off racing line, so he's dropped now down to P17. But what exactly happened between Dan Mould and Reese? What is the big question? Well, we'll answer that question shortly, but meanwhile, right now we've got a car off the road at turn 8. That's Semper Racing Sabula, who's gone wide there. Now, was he aided in that, or was that of his own volition? I'm not quite sure, but we can tell you the number 14 driver's got a long way to rejoin. He's just got to gradually bring himself back on the exit line, and that will be painful. But meanwhile, speaking of battles that are painful right now for Mikey Doble, he's going to be feeling as though he just wants to clear the drivers as they make the way through turns 1 and 2. The prime drives of Ian Manners and Russell Fowler continue to be a thorn in his side. Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp ran a bit wide out of turn number 1, a bit of a liberal use of the track limits, but still the Sim Racing Collective driver doing well to keep Guthrie at bay in this brilliant battle between the Honda driver and the Veloster driver as they make the way out towards turn number 3. But meanwhile, we take a look back at what exactly happened at turn 3 between Dan Mould and Reese Watt. Now this was only moments ago on lap number 2, and as they made their way into the braking zone, door was open there, and what's coming too strong on the braking, and Mould in the end was just in the wrong place at the right time for contact to occur, and well, a difficult moment for Dan Mould, a frustrating one. And meanwhile, William Guthrie being given some breathing as a result, and in Will being touched in the rear there by what was Wayne Douglas, and the CS Sim Racing Mally Motors driver going around but avoiding the sandbags. But meanwhile, we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Racing still very much underway here despite a couple of incidents, and well, as they continue the way on the round, we will try and get an update on what happened to Zabula shortly at lap number 2. And in fact, we do have an update. Here's an immediate replay of what happened to the number 14 driver going into the corner. Alex Meredith looking up the inside, and Zabula in the end just putting 2 wheels on to the grass or the dirt there going into turn number 8, and the car being pulled off the road, and the Semper Racing driver realising that at the end of the day he can make that corner as wide as he can, but not that wide, as we return to the live pictures. But as we do so, all of the drivers carrying on here, pushing hard as they roar their way now into the mid-stage of this race. And well, meanwhile, a bit further back, we still have a side-by-side here between Nick Clemens and Adam Delmont. Clemens getting the better run out of 1. Meredith versus Addy, meanwhile, side-by-side, they exit turn 1 into 2. And well, it's going to be Meredith who can't quite carry the speed here as they make the way around. I mean, on that inside line, and we do know the Elantra struggles a little bit through the heavy low corners by comparison with the Honda, and as they make the way through turn number 3, a bit of door banging between the two of them. Meredith trying to squeeze Addy to the apex, and Addy saying no you don't, but as they make the way up the hill through the right hander they go and down. Well, right now Addy doing everything right as we ride on board and look back from the rear at the same case with NXTGEN machine as he rolls off of the turn 5 apex and up towards turn number 6 he goes. But this is where the Civic will now start to be real back in it. It hasn't got the straight line speed compared to its peers, albeit as he makes his way in towards turn number 8. Well, going into the corner here, it does look as though he's been able to keep Meredith at bay for just a bit longer as they come into the final corner of this lap. And in to the braking zone here, will we see Meredith get the better run? Some drivers, when they nail this corner, they will gain 3 or 4 attempts and they rival in front. And you can see that, in fact, Meredith does. He launches the car at the corner, building up the speed now as they make the way in towards turn number 1. It's a long run. They're halfway up the straight already. Can he find a way in? No, he can't. And right now, Addy staying safe as they break the way on through. And as they come through the left-hander, meanwhile, a bit further behind, Matthew Sheraton side-by-side with Reese Watt. These two right now, after Reese Watt's absolutely brilliant start, ending in a bit of difficulty going into what was turn number 3, that contact with Dan Mould. Both drivers going off the road, and Watt coming off what was the better of the two in terms of the recovery, arguably, albeit they've still got plenty of distance in the racing today. And Sheraton right now trying to keep the Audi RS3 JW Motorsport machine honest as they make the way in to the left-hander, going uphill in towards turn number 4 very shortly. But as they do, well, meanwhile, we are heading in. Will's moved up into P26 ahead of Ben Altria now. We do have one car in the pits, and that is Sam Smith. It's being worked on at the moment due to damage picked up, and Lee Horn is a lap down. We haven't quite seen what's happened to Lee Horn today, but so far it's not been a great day for Lee Horn. But meanwhile, looking from this battle for P15 to just behind it, Jamie Dory battling afterwards. Michael Lee's here, and the defending champion looking for P19 now. Remember that it's only the top 15 places overall that count for points, and it's the same in the Pro-Am class in terms of the individual class classification. There's also bonus points for the fastest lap and leading a lap of racing. And as Dory looks up the inside there, he's thinking about it, but he's not close enough to go for it as he winds his way off of the corner and up towards turn number 1 he goes. And as he does, we jump on board here with the NXTGEN Racing pink car as it makes its way in towards turn number 1. Now thinking about it here as he makes his way up towards the braking zone, but can he go for it or will he wait for later on? Well, the concertina begins there with Joseph Doble breaking a little bit earlier. You can understand why, given the success ballast that Doble has in that car, he does need to try and get the momentum blunted a little bit sooner. But meanwhile, they're leaf braking even earlier than Dory would like. Dory decides to roll the car a little wide. We'll try and cut it back here by creating a late apex out of turn number 2. But right now just cannot seem to find a way in as they make the way up towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes they go. And at this point, Jamie Dory, I think he's got the pace to get on through and make further progress. But one thing is catching, another thing is passing, as the late Murray Walker had said. And right now, Dory is experiencing that as Doble having to go defensive versus Lease as they come over the rise of 4 and down into 5. But meanwhile, looking all the way back up to the front of the field, there's Benjamin McCluskey, your race leader. He's 2.1 seconds clear of this man, Russell Fowler. And right now, your prime leader pushing on as they make the way in towards turn number 9 for the 6th time of asking here. And look at this from Manners. Manners is starting to itch a move. He's trying to send the signals here to Fowler, which is look at me as they both run wide. They're both pushing another very hard at this point in time. and that's going to bring Mikey Doble and also Luciano Vidvoet and Kieran Sharp right into the mix behind the 3 pros, behind the 2 pros as they make their way into lap number 7. Into the braking zone they go, and as they do, well, right now Sharp just watching in the background. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble practically glued to the back of Ian Manners' car going through one. Manners goes defensive. That's going to give Fowler all the breathing room he needs to feel safe for a little while as they head through turn number 2. And that's the problem right now, I think, for Mikey, in the fact that he just does not have the speed in the car, given the success ballast, in order to make the move on that Honda that, whilst it's slow on the straights, is not laden with weight. And Motegi taking a look up the inside, can't quite find it as they make the way on through the corners, but up through turn number 4 they go and over to the rise. It's so close between the 2 of them here, and right now at any moment if Doble goes to a move and it doesn't work out on Manners, then he could have Vidvoet right up his inside into the next corner, and what is absolutely tantalising stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem is right now it becomes a bit of a proverbial chess game. When do you pick to go for your move, and is it the right time to take the piece in front of you on the board? Because right now it looks like for Mikey Doble it's not the right time to try and bring down that P3 for Ian Manners, but instead he's just got to focus running close and get Vidvoet and Sharp to fight each other. As Guthrie, meanwhile, on the back of this group right now, he's closed up as well, the full Tilby Motorsport driver. They're all staying very close and keeping each other honest as they make the way on to the next lap. But as they do so, meanwhile, they're looking a bit further back. We look back to Matthew Sheraton. We've got a car off the road. That is Paul Scott who rejoins. Nick Clemens is into the pit lane, I think, with damage to the car, I think, from hitting the curb. But meanwhile, in the foreground of the camera, now the focal point of our camera, that's a switchback from Johnny Higgins Jr. throwing the dummy on Alex Meredith, but Meredith can outbrake him there. Confidence with the Kemi Tui Motorsport driver, the 44 driver, doing everything right. We've got Reese Watt running a bit wide there as he explores the track limits there. Jamie Dory as well in the rear of the picture, but as they make the way on around through turn number 2 and up towards 3 they go. Right now these guys staying quite close, but meanwhile we've had a bit of a battle, and that is Vidvoet up the inside of Mikey Doble into turn number 3. I think there's a bit more story to this, because we've also had Russell Fowler fall to the back of this group, and Fowler right now, the places are dropping for the Performance Link Esports driver, but what exactly happens to be the question when Manners holding on to P2 right now and going for the prime win. I think it'll be his first one of the season, unless my memory's mistaken. I think it's his first win ever he's going for here in the prime class, but as they make the way up towards turn number 8 once again, right now these guys all nose to tails, they charge in, and Guthrie's going to look up the inside of Fowler, can't quite find it as he makes his way on through. We jump on board here with the full Tilby Motorsport driver inside the cockpit as he makes his way into the right under turn number 9, and right now just having to back it off once again. Meanwhile, we can point out that Benjamin McCluskey, he's off in the distance, he's a speck in the camera for most of our drivers right now, or in terms of their eyesight, as they make the way onto the next lap. He's 2.5 seconds clear of this battle and just running the race at his own pace. But as they head in towards turn number 1, everybody right now in this long line of 6 cars, nobody is giving in. They're all pushing each other to the absolute limit as they make the way into turn number 2 once more here. And will we see another change of positions? We do see Fowler seems to be struggling now to get the smoothness that he had previously, and I wonder if there's some damage on that Audi, given the fact it does look to be a little bit more over the road. But meanwhile, Kieran Sharp here looking for a move around the outside of Mikey Doble into turn 3. Can't find it. The Sim Racing Collective driver just trying to psych his rival into a mistake, but then again we know that Doble, one of the strongest when it comes to mental fortitude, unshaken by even the little dummies, and just simply carries on and keeps calm and collected. But meanwhile, looking further back, we've still got a 2-wide battle that's been raged on for some time. It's 2-wide coming on through turn number 4 between Cheverton and Watt. Watt in the end is going to squeeze Cheverton to the grass, and as he does so, well, Cheverton goes straight on, tries to get the car stopped. It's going to come careening down, and that's contact there with Joseph Doble, who was doing so well to make his way out through the order, and Joseph Doble sent to the barren grass as he now rejoins, and that's disaster for the pair of them in the fact they all went wrong in a short period of time. But meanwhile, with all that, we look back to your leaders for now, and we give you a replay of what exactly happened to enable what was Ian Manners to move his way up into P2. Well, here's the replay of how the move was made on Russell Fowler back on lap number 8. Under braking here, and will Manners up the inside. A nice move. Mikey Doble made it 3-wide. Contact there between Fowler and Doble. So they tried to go for the 3-wide, and in the end, Doble losing the place to what was Vidvoet, and that explains the story and why Fowler's going a bit slowly. I think he might have some rear damage on that car, and it's cost him some time. But we'll return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. And then, with regards to the incident we've just had from Matthew Cheverton, here is the replay as to what happened. to make his way through the corner, side by side with Reese Watt, and Watt in the enforcing the issue, and Sheraton, well, he wanted to keep his nose, and I think Finn he'd earned the right to inside into turn number 5, and here he just can't stop the car. It comes on down, and in the end, Joseph Doble is the unfortunate driver who Sheraton makes contact with coming down the hill. But as we return to your live pictures, and now all push it on. Meanwhile, we look back to these live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and Michael Leese up the inside here of Jamie Dory will name a pair of drivers outside the top 10 who have not been fighting as much as these guys, I dare you to, because right now Leese still keeping Dory behind him as much as he can as they make the way up towards turn number 8. We say hello there to Mark Kent in the YouTube chat. Some of you giving your thoughts on what happened between Sheraton and what there, and the subsequent impact to Joseph Doble's race, and they carry on as well. We still do have 29 runners in this race, it should be pointed out of our 30 starters, but as I try to make the way onto lap number 11, the laps are ticking down. But I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, this race is passing quickly. It does really feel as though it's NXTGEN racing meets NASCAR meets touring car, with the number of laps that are occurring and the ferocity which they're taking each and every lap on. But meanwhile, speaking of a driver right now who's having to defend ferociously, this is John Higgins Jr. still trying to hold on to P9 overall, albeit with some latency issues there. He disappears and then reappears from the internet ether as we see Matthew Addy running wide and dipping wide. He's got to be careful in the fact there's a lot of bumps and undulations on the runoff at turn number 2. Well, there's no runoff here. It's what if you run wide at 2, you're going to find yourself very quickly hitting rough patches of terrain and raised patches as well, and those can break the car in terms of suspension just as much as the curbs around here. Matthew Addy down to P11 with that mistake. He doesn't lose class position, he still retains P3 in Pro-Am, but he will lose P10, although that could be quite a nice saving grace. It will mean P11, he won't take any success badges into race number 2 because it's only awarded to the top 10 overall finishers, not P11 downwards. But as Addy continues to chase after Andrew Pike, from there we look back to Dan Mould, who is still trying to make some further progress here after a difficult qualifying session. The SRL driver made his way through the long right at turn 8 into 9, and as he heads into the right-hander here, onto the brakes they go. Right now, the Briton putting the pressure on, but can he find a way to get on through as they make the way out the corner? He's close here. Scott's going to defend, and Scott will put it to the inside as in front. We can also see in the distance the battle between Watt and Meredith. So right now, 2 battles at once, and as Mould tries to drag race his way on through, meanwhile, Michael Leese is behind on the right of your picture off camera. Mould goes up the inside, meanwhile, Watt drifting sideways there, coming through the corner, and Meredith holds the position for now as they make the way towards turn number 2. They're on lap number 12 of 14. Up the rise they go. Meredith gains another place up to P4 in prime now. Reese Watt close, but not quite able to make that place stick as they make the way in towards turn number 3. And as they charge way through, we also say hello there to Smags 660. That's James Smags 6 gal there. Welcome to you, James. I hope you're doing well and giving his perspective on the incident between Sheraton and Watt. And well, definitely one that may go to the stewards after the racing today, but we're not going to give an opinion on that one here, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to focus on the race, and that's the job of the stewards. And as they make the way on through turn number 5 into 6, well, right now Dan Mould, he may not be up in the place he wants to be, but he's definitely enjoying the race. And then Alex Meredith will continue to try and pull away from Reese Watt here with only 2 more laps to go after this run of turns 8 and 9. And the Kerry Tool E-Motorsport driver close to the podium, but 9 Matthew Addy 4.5 seconds up the road. That podium's not going to be possible in this race. But as I try to wind the way on around here, meanwhile, we do look back up to the battle for the final spot of the overall podium between Vivoed and Mikey Doble, with Kieran Sharp also in the mix as they make the way out of the corner. And looking back from the rear of the Bram Esports machine, just looking underneath the right hand side of the rear wing from our perspective. Well, right now as they make the way on through here, Doble close, but can he find a way to get into the mix here, into the braking zone? He tried it around the outside at turn 3 much earlier on in the race. It didn't work out. I think learning from that, realising that outside line just doesn't work. It's a cambered corner, but the problem is it tapers so aggressively by the time you exit the corner to the inside of 4, and there's just no real place for you to go as they make the way down through turn number 4 into 5 and into the braking zone here. And again, Doble with the success ballast in the car, the 3rd place success ballast. The has got a car that's got no weight laden onto it. Therefore, he does have a bit more speed on the straights. And as they head in towards turn number 8 now, gradually, all behind Guthrie, still trying to battle with Fowler. You can see right at the back of this long train of cars, Manners only half a second in front and feeling the pressure as they head in towards the next braking zone. And as they come in to turn number 9, well, right now, no way between them as they head in towards that right-hander, but as they do so, it is going to be the guy who still holds on, and as they charged away on down, penultimate lap goes to the final lap. White flag, white waves, ladies and gentlemen, and as our drivers do see that flag, it will only galvanise them a little bit more, as Michael Lees here looking up the inside of Paul Scott for his P15. That'll be P6 in the prime class here if he's able to make it count, and as they head in towards turn number 1, well, right now Scott will try and come back at him before this lap is all said and done, but will he find a way to make a counter-attack, or is Lees the faster of the two drivers here on this final lap, given the fact the Audi RS3 that goes a little bit deep, and I think Scott making a small mistake, and that could cost him the setup for the run from turns 2 through to 4. As they head up towards what is turn number 4. Meanwhile, we look to Luciano Voigt here coming down through the right-hander, and the Bram Esports driver right now, Mikey Doble, right behind him still. Kieran Sharp also in the mix there, and with Voigt right now, I think he's given up hunting P2 versus Ian Manners. He's focusing right now on just keeping the Double Sim Racing driver behind as they come off the rise, and down towards turn number 8 they go, but as they charge their way in, well, right now Sharp is ever close as always, but the problem is the Honda just does not have the legs on the straights around here, and whilst it's got the speed in the corners, it's not going to be enough, and as they all make the way out towards turn number 9, meanwhile this man makes his way through the final corner, and he's pretty much run it away from the start of the race to the finish, and it's going to be the first win of the day that goes to Next Gen Racing's Benjamin McCluskey as he weaves his way across line to take the checker flag. Your prime winner Ian Manners takes P2 for JW Motorsport, and it will be Luciano Voigt who completes the overall podium for Bram Esports ahead of Mikey Doble, Kieran Sharp P5, William Guthrie P6, Russell Fowler P7, P2 in the prime class after a brilliant battle inside the top 10, Adam Delman P8, John Higgins Jr. P9, and then it will be Matthew Addy who rounds off the prime podium at P10 there, ahead of Andrew Pike P11, Reese Watt P12, ahead of what will be Alex Meredith P13, and then it will be Dan Mould ahead of Jamie Dory with Paul Scott, Alan McCain, and then Michael Lees. Isaac Doble comes to the line very shortly. He'll be your next finisher, P19, and a difficult start to today for the Double Sim Racing driver as he just finishes ahead of Ben Altria, who was P20, P10 in the prime class in the end, and Ian Wild running very wide down the final corner. He'll rejoin, but will he rejoin P21 or will he be caught by Jonathan Collins at the line? Collins is going for the run. It's going to be a drag race here, and Collins does get on through to take P11 in the prime class, P21 overall ahead of Ian Wild, and then it will be Mark Sykes who comes on through P23 ahead of Joseph Doble, who in the end will be absolutely fuming after that contact with Matthew Sheraton. Again, he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Matthew Sheraton P25, and I think he'll put his hand up and say, well, once I was a passenger in the car, there's nothing I can do. Jaroslav Sabula in the end recovered to P26, a difficult start to the race after what was a good opening couple laps, so that run wide at turn number 8 cost him dear, and then he was your last lead lap finisher ahead of Lee Horn, Wayne Douglas, Nick Levins, and the retiree of Sam Smith. But as all the drivers make the way into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, what a race to kick off proceedings here at the big Willow section of Willow Springs International Raceway. Benjamin McCluskey, your winner in the end, but of course, no weight in this first race today, but he'll have the maximum success ballast in race number 2, and he'll be hard-pressed to repeat that. And Ian Manners, the JW Motorsport driver, bringing home his first prime win of the season, his first overall podium as well, and I do believe that's first not just for this season, but also first in his NXTCC career, and congratulations to the 52 driver. But as they all park up, or at least make the way on down this cool-down lap, Ian Wild having a difficult race, was making some early progress, but unfortunate contact with Wayne Douglas coming out of turn number 3 up towards 4, upsetting his momentum, but still 2 more races to go, and he'll continue his attitude. In fact, he was really praised in the week by a number of drivers for the fact he had a really positive attitude and saying, I may not be the fastest driver out there on the grid, but I'm going to be there every week, and I'm going to gradually find that pace, and that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. As Sabula makes his way to the pit lane, he'll be your final driver to come on in, and well, let's take you through those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after a fantastic 14 laps of racing it in race number 1 of the day in the NXTCC Season 4, round number 9, sponsored by Higgins Automotive and brought to you on the iRacing Simulator platform, Benjamin McCluskey taking the win for Next Gen Racing by 2.9 seconds over JW Motorsport's Ian Manners. Manners was your prime winner in the end and takes his first overall podium as well, ahead of Bram Esports' Luciano Voigt. who was P3, a great drive there from the 60 driver, and a brilliant battle between him and Mikey Doble. The two of them inseparable, and it was down into other battles influencing where they would finish in respect to each other. Mikey Doble P4 for Doble Sim Racing, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered when it came to needing to heal his points in the championship today, knowing if he can carry this up in the second and third races, he'll be right back up there in the season finale, with Kieran Sharp P5 for the Sim Racing Collective, head of Full Tilt V Motorsports William Guthrie. Russell Fowler, P7, runner-up in the Prime class. The Performance Link Esports driver will be gutted he didn't finish inside the top 5 overall, but also he's got to take the fact forward that he has finished second in the class, and therefore that's some huge points. In fact, he'll be the biggest gainer out of the championship contenders in this first race of the day. Head of Adam Delman for Mark Sykes Designs, John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective, who in the end recovered well to P9, and Matthew Addy P10 at the finish for Sam Case for NXTGEN, and completing your prime podium of Manners, Fowler and Addy. Then P11 Best of the Rest, Andrew Pyatt for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport driver, just missing out on the top 3 of the Prime class, but takes the P4 in class after what was that difficult start to his race. Alex Meredith P13 for Chemical E Motorsport, ahead of Dan Mould, and then the final overall points will go to the driver behind the SRL driver. It'll be Next Gen Racing Pink's Jamie Dorey. Paul Scott P16 ahead of the Sam Case for the Next Gen driver, getting P16 ahead of Alan McCain, I should say, as I stumble over my words briefly, with iRace Esports' driver being followed up by Michael Lees, and then we can see to complete the top 20 Isaac Doble and Ben Altria. Jonathan Collins, P21, in that drag race with Ian Wild to the final finishing line, head of that Mark Sykes with Joe Zidol, P24, and then Matthew Sheraton at P25 in a difficult race for the pair of them. Jaroslav Sabula, P26 for Semper Racing, a difficult debut in terms of his first race, but still 2 more races to go, and he'll carry his momentum forward, and he was your last lead lap finisher ahead of finishing a lap down. Lee Horn for Sam Case for Next Gen, also Wayne Douglas for Next Gen Racing Pink, and iRace Esports Nick Clibbins, and then retiring after only 2 laps of race in iRace Esports' Sam Smith. We believe it was due to suspension failure, picked up as a result of contact with either another car or going over one of the raised curves. We're not quite sure of the exact reasons, but we know the suspension of the car did fail. So that was our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Still 2 more to go here in the wonderful Kern County Rosamond circuit of Willow Springs International Raceway. And we'll be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. Given how close race number 1 was, it's going to be one you won't want to miss. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our second race of the day in this round number 9 of the NXTGEN Season 4, brought to you today at Willow Springs International Raceway. And goodness me, what a first race at Willow Springs we have had. It had a little bit of everything. 2 wide battles aplenty, from lights out to checker flag. Moments where drivers end up off circuit, some dramatic, some team drivers having to make recovery races afterwards, but for it all, the intensity never let up. With another race getting ready to get underway in only 4 minutes time, you can imagine how all of our drivers will be honed in, their senses will be tightened, and in all of it they'll be all set and absolutely itching for the prize of trying to go for victory once again. But as they just gradually warm up currently in this practice warm-up session, we say hello to a couple more of you in the chats that we haven't said hello to just yet, including Andrew Pye in the YouTube chat, also there to Mike Doble in the YouTube chat, who I do believe that might be the father of Mikey Doble there. And we also, I think that's everyone. We also say hello there to Mark Draper, who's cheering on Dan Mould and making some observations. Also to Scullion, who's cheering on Alex Meredith. Velocity Breaker is cheering on Russell Fowler. It's great to see so many of you there. And in the Facebook chat as well, let's not forget Katie Eames, who says that this track should make things fun tonight. And that's before we went racing. Well, Katie, we'd appreciate an update if you do have some thoughts now. Did it keep the racing interesting in the first race today? I think your answer is going to be yes, but you can confirm that for us. We also say hello there to Kurt Worry in the YouTube chat. So great to see so many of you in there. And well, what we're going to try and do, ladies and gentlemen, is we never quite get the chance to interview him in the build-up, well, not in the build-up, the post-race interviews, given the fact that he does have to normally step away and be up early the next morning for going racing. But we're going to try and get a word with Dan Mould at some point, although I do believe at the moment he may actually be in the pit lane, and it's that stationary. In fact, he's not in the pit lane, he's actually out of the car and in the garage, so we're not going to quite be able to get a pat through to him at the moment, but we will try and get a word with Dan Mould if we can before the build-up to race number 3, or during the build-up to race number 3, for the simple reason we'd love to hear the thoughts from the championship contender. Albeit I can imagine a bit of a frustrating first race of the day, given that contact with Reswap where it all went wrong. Albeit they've settled the differences, I understand it. They've had a chat about it, but obviously in the heat of the moment, it's a very frustrating time, and we'll be feeling as though it could have been a much better result. But as our drivers get themselves set to go racing it once again, we do try and catch a quick word with one of our drivers, and I think we are in fact going to be able to get a quick word with none other than what will be very shortly the driver of Ian Manners, as we do try to get a word with him from the car as he drives his way on around. And we are just going to see if we can get the patch through to his car very shortly as he makes his way on through turn number 2. We do try to get a quick word with Ian Manners. Ian, do you have a brief moment for a word?
Yes, hello.
Ian, it's great to see you right up there at the front of the field, battling hard in race number 1 of the day, picking up, I believe, your first prime win of the season and your first overall podium as well in your NXTCC career. A special race to start the day.
Yes, it was. I was quite surprised, actually. This track is very hard with the curbs. You have to stay off it, and half the battle is not trying to touch the curbs. And I was being pushed all the way by Mikey, but I did enjoy my overtake on the outside at T2. Sorry.
Well, indeed, fantastic work, to be fair, from yourself. And now only 30 seconds to go before race number 2. You're going to be carrying the best part of 50 kilograms of success ballast in the car. What's your plan for holding on to that P2?
There is no plan to hold on to P2. I think it's just try and stay as high up as possible. This track's very slidey. Tyres wear very much. They're starting to go by the end of that race, so I fear that I won't be. I'll be struggling at the end anyway.
Well, Ian, we wish you the best luck in race number 2. We'll leave you to it with your preparations and see you at the checker flag.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So hearing there from Ian Manners as the checker flag comes out, just a quick word from him. It's been some time since we've done a pre-race interview of our drivers, but now everybody's set. The checker flag is here. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to go to the grid. So our drivers get themselves set. This is how they line up for our second race of the day. is Benjamin McCluskey, who takes pole position for NXTGEN Racing, looking to make it 2 races out of 2 that he wins today as a minimum. He'll then be Ian Maz alongside him on the front row, your pro and pole sitter and winner from race number 1 for JW Motorsport, with Luciano Vidford in P3 there for Bram Esports, ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble, and then it will be Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective and Full Tilt v Motorsports William Guthrie on row number 3. Row 4 goes to the combination of Performance Link Esports' Russell Fowler and Adam Delmont for Mark Sykes Designs, and then the top 10 completed by John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective and Sam Case for NXTGEN's Matthew Addy. Row number 6 goes to Andrew Pye and Reese Watt, ahead of row number 7's pairing of Alex Meredith and Dan Mould. Row number 8 goes to Jamie Dory and Paul Scott, with Alan McCain starting behind P17. P18 goes to Michael Leese, ahead of your top 20 completers Isaac Doble and Ben Altrier. But I have to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set. It is now time for the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go once again for our second race of the day here as our drivers get on the charge towards turn 1. It's another slow start from McCluskey, and look at Manners, he's going to go through to take the lead of this race as they make the way into left-hander, and onwards they go. The JW Motorsport driver getting the launch that the Honda's known for, and as they make the way out towards turn number 2, can he keep it now for 11 laps of racing? Well, meanwhile behind, everybody immediately squirming here as they make the way on through. We looked at a blimp camera, the long line of 30 cars all making their way safely on through turns 1 and 2. But now as this battling starts to build to a crescendo point into turn number 3, Doble goes a little bit wide there, have the inside into free arrow that gives him the space to play with. Meanwhile, there's been a bit of contact in front. Mikey Doble sent across onto the grass, spinning off there in the rear of the picture. We didn't quite see what happened there, but I think the car coming in a bit too hot, and Mikey Doble's race now sent all the way to the back of the field, and he's going to have to recover it. Only know how he best does to do so. But as they make the way out towards turn number 5 here, down into the braking zone they go, and Dan Mould immediately on the charge here, looking for retribution after race number 1, and right now doing exactly that, or is he, as he's turned around over the curb at turn number 6, and the SRL driver is put backwards onto the grass. It's disaster for 2 of the biggest contenders in the overall championship this season, and with that I think he might be pinched on to that raised curb as well, the raised grass threshold as well. But meanwhile we look back to Kieran Sharp, as I'm hearing in my ear that Mould's car has been beached. It's had to be retired, ladies and gentlemen. They can't get it off. And meanwhile, whilst all this goes on, after 1 lap of racing, it's Ian Manners ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, Kieran Sharp P3, followed by Luciano Vidford P4, Adam Delmont P5, Russell Fowler P6, William Guthrie P7, Andrew Pike P8 now getting ahead of Matthew Addy there, squeezes his way on through into turn number 1, albeit will he be able to get this done as Addy tries to get around the outside but can't do so. Reese Watt's now going to come at him as they make the way in. In fact, Addy will be able to get this defence pulled off. Well, at least he'll force what will be their point to go the long way round, all the way through turn number 2. And as they make the way up towards turn number 3, Addy loses the place, drops down to P9, Reese Watt P10, and John Higgins Jr. P11 as they break the way in towards turn number 2, turn number 3, I should say, once again. But what goes round? And the corner that in race number 1 haunts him once again. Meanwhile, there's further chaos further down. There's multiple cars going loose, but everybody reacts in time. One driver doesn't, however, and that's Luke Jones, who manages to scoop his way back into the circuit, albeit an altercation with Mark Sykes, I think. And as they make the way on down, we'll make the way over turn number 4 down towards 5. Everyone's been able to survive those incidents. My goodness, I thought we were going to be seeing an absolutely huge smash between drivers, but in the end they've all just about made it, ladies and gents, which is testament to their driving abilities. But as they head on around right now and charging on, well, meanwhile we look from towards the back of the field back up towards the front, and this is Guthrie versus Fowler as they roll on through turn number 9 on towards lap number 3 they go. The leaders charge across, and Manners is now definitely being reeled in, but it's 3 wide almost in the run. It's 2 by 2 in fact. Kieran Sharp looks like the inside here, and McCluskey, remember McCluskey now does have all the weight in the car as they head into turn number 1, and through they go. And as they do, well, right now the longer these two fight, the more pace Manners can just conserve in the car and try to pull away little by little. But Delmont versus Vidford as they head on through. That's Luciano Vidford, we're now pronouncing his name correctly. And as they make the way through 2, thank you to Alan for correcting that in the YouTube chat midway between the races. And as they make the way in towards turn number 3, onto the brakes they go. We've got Matthew Sheraton in the pit lane, I believe, due to damage on the car. But meanwhile, there goes Vidford defending into 3, up the hill into 4 they go. And Delmont can't find a way on through right now, having to wait behind as they make the way off the rise and down in towards turn number 5. But as they come down the hill, it's 2 Hondas ahead of 2 Velosters, and there's back to what will be an Audi behind as they make the way in towards what is turn number 7. As they charge on through. Meanwhile, we take a look back to what happened to Mikey Doble on the open lap, and here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. we look back from the rear camera Doble's got, I think there might have been some contact here as he came out the corner, and as he went into the braking zone, it was a crunch on the rear with what was there, the car of Kieran Sharp, the 23 under braking, and Doble sent all the way round to the fence post and frustrating between them. We take a look back at that from Kieran Sharp's perspective, meanwhile, as he made his way on around here. I think this will have been the concertina effect in motion as they made the way, and I think Sharp thinks they could look to the inside, and in the end, I think just Sharp not having enough time to react, and well, that might be a bit of a wrap on the wrist after today's racing from the stewards' room. But meanwhile, return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we only see certain camera angles, we don't see it all, so we're not going to pass full judgment. But meanwhile, as we look back to John Heaton's Jr. versus Matthew Addy, now on lap number 4, live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way on through turn number 2 once again. We're charging up towards the next braking zone. We will get a replay very shortly of what happened to Dan Mould on the open lap, where he in the end got beached on what was that patch of grass coming out of turn number 6, or off of the run of 5 into 6, we should say. But right now, John Heaton's Jr. keeping Addy and Watt right behind, and Reese Watt on the offensive here, trying to look for his way past his rival in the Pro-Am class, with Jamie Dory inching closer to the two of them as they head up towards what will be turn number 6. And as they charge their way down through the right-hander and onwards towards the long sweeper of turn number 8, we can see again Watt just not quite able to get the run through 5 into 6, and Addy able to carry a bit more speed by comparison. Meanwhile, further back, this is the battle for what is P20 between Collins and McCain. That's Mikey Doble flashing his lights, trying there to say to him, look, let me go, you don't need me in your fight, I need to get on through. And well, he's going to look up the inside there is Doble, and that's going to be McCain on the outside. The iRacing Esports Elantra will give the space as they make the way through. Doble holds tight to the inside, car ran a bit wide there, that is Clemens who just catches in time, and Doble does clear McCain on the run through 9, and now he's got to try and pick his way past Collins. Collins going into the pits there with damage to the car. Well, that was very sudden for Collins. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with the car, but I can tell you it's gone wrong. Meanwhile, Ian wheeled up the inside here of Clemens, who had the poor run coming out of turn number 9. He's going to go for the move as a CS Sim Racing with Manny Motors driver, but he hasn't quite got the speed. Clemens runs wide. This may give Wild another opportunity to look up the outside into turn number 2, but in the end, just not enough speed to make the move count. Meanwhile, a bit further up the road, he had a disaster of a race number 1 from what I heard in the pit lane after the race, but right now trying to make a recovery here and started P28 on the grid is Lee Horn for Sam Case with NXTGEN. He has got behind him Sam Smith, and right now Lee Horn trying to keep the pro driver at bay as they head over the rise and down in towards turn number 5. But as they do, we take a look back at what happened to Dan Mould on the opening lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happened to the SRL driver. So coming down through the corners here, and contact there with, I believe that was Alex Meredith that sent Mould on around. Now, well, the two of them squeezed one another as Mould did get beached there and he couldn't get the car off in the end. We take a look back from the perspective of Alex Meredith as he made his way through. The coming between motorsport driver will have Mould his left, and oh goodness me, that's a difficult one. Did Meredith straight line the side of Mould's car? Did Mould come across and cut on the nose of Meredith? You decide, ladies and gentlemen, but thankfully that's why we have the stewards. But I think both of them there trying to fight for the same space, and in the end, Mould coming off the worst as a result of it. As we return to live pictures, going on to now lap number 6, and well, whilst we do, we now look back to your leaders here. Let's not forget about them at the front, and we do have our top 9 separated by a very small margin as there's contact there between Delwyn and Vitford goes round onto the path there of Guthrie, and well, Vitford tries to bring it back together. He does so, but it's very scrappy, and goodness me, Vitford almost with major contact with Higgins Jr. There was still a bit of a tap, but nothing like what it could have been. My good lord, they've been lucky to get away with that as he makes his way down through turn number 4, and goodness, that was very close. I think they're both Delman and Vitford very aggressive against one another coming out of turn number 2, both of them rubbing doors, neither one wanted to give in, and in the end was the Brabham Esports Veloster that was made to give in that battle, and it's not over yet with Delman now under pressure from Guthrie as Guthrie up the inside here into turn number 8. Now coming through the long right hander, Guthrie should have this done. He's got the inside line. Delman's going to try and hang it all the way round in the Honda. He knows he's got the grip in that Honda, but as he got the speed, he runs wide in the end, and naturally on that outside line it goes one of two ways. You either back off or you're going to run wide unless the driver on the inside completely backs off. When they've got the right to the race line, they won't want to, and as they make the way towards turn number 1, well, right now Guthrie gets ahead in the end, holding the outside there through turn number 1. Nice move from Guthrie to get it done. Behind Andrew Pike, still battling here with Russell Fowler, and Fowler absolutely obstinate in this defence now for P6. 1.6, and credit to Fowler where it's due. He's just refusing to yield as they make the way through turn 2, and that Audi RS3 is demonstrating just how strong it can be here, in the fact that right now Pike looking for the move, but this time, as soon as we sing Fowler's praises, Pike does find a way on through, and I think Fowler might in that instance have just been caught by Pike in terms of not aware of it's going to come into that left-hander, but as they make the way on through, meanwhile we look back to Reese Watt, who's chasing after Michael Lease. This is for third place in the prime class. And as they charge down through the left-hander at turn at number 5, Reese Watt with an Audi that's definitely looking to gain some more places. He'd love to be back on that podium, and he's doing everything he can to try and make that a reality as they charge their way in towards turn number 8 here, but everyone now lying astern for a brief moment. But as they come on through, we look back to your leaders. This is your top 3 of Manners ahead of Sharp, followed by McCluskey, and Manners right now. Sharp does have a bit less weight in the car, and that's something that's got to be considered, but Manners doing very well here to hold on. But the thing he will have going against him is the fact in the final 3 to 4 laps, the right side and the left side tyres of this car will have a bit more wear, but particularly those left-hand side tyres, with this circuit being a clockwise circuit. And as Manners runs wide there, he's going to rejoin, but that could be everything that Sharp needs to go all the way around the outside. And Sharp right now, he goes for the move, and he's going to get it done here at Rabbit's Ear Corner. And indeed, Kieran Sharp takes the lead of this race after a mistake from Manners. Manners will try and come back into turn number 3, but Sharp immediately goes defensive, saying, no, you do not, and puts the anchors on there as they make the way on through. Now winding their way up the hill. Will this be the start of a number of places drop for Ian Manners, or can he stem the tide as he's lost the opportunity perhaps to take the win here unless Sharp makes a mistake of his own? But still, you can imagine that Manners will be thinking right now, okay, I've made one mistake, I'm still leading the prime class, let's make it back-to-back prime wins and some huge points for myself and the team today as they make the way up towards turn number 7. Remember, JW Motorsport are still fighting for a top 5 in the team's championship. Manners may not be fighting for the top of the prime class in terms of Higgins Automotive Drivers' Championship, but Manners' points today could see JW Motorsport launch their way up the standings going into the season finale as they head in towards turn number 9 right now. Kieran Sharp there, a little bit out of sorts. He came to the braking zone. Look at Manners, gets the better line. This could be a return for Manners. He's going to have the time to do it as they charge on through. In the tow he goes. He gets closer. 1/10 it is at the line, and as they make the way towards the next braking zone, Manners will peel out to the outside. Sharp will defend. Now can Manners hook it all the way round? The rear of the car, let's go. Manners drifts, and as he catches it, oh no, he's gone through for Delmont, who's collected there, and I think Delmont was expecting Manners to just simply lose the car out on to the grass in the dirt, but not to be, as Delmont does return, but the car comes crashing down off the embankment, and for Delmont, that is a race over. That car is not going to last on the suspension with a clattering like that. As they make the way out of turn number 2 in towards 3. Right now, Joseph Doble here, P9, and we'll credit where it's due to the Doble Sim Racing driver. He's come through from P26 on the grid to P9, and right now the number 11 driver is not letting places go. He is catching them left, right and centre. Like they say in Pokemon, you've got to catch them all. Well, right now, we've been to Japan twice this season, the home of Pokemon. We're very far away from it right now, even though it's famous in America as well, and I can tell you one thing, Joseph Doble is catching every place of Penty as he makes his way in towards turn number 8, and as he does so here right now, Jamie Dory, well, the pressure is on as they wind their way up towards turn number 9 this time. Doble right there on the rear bumper of his rival, and I think at this time number 11 driver just putting the pressure on, trying to get Dory to make a mistake. That Elantra, of course, a little bit of a different car compared to so it appears. Jamie was saying in the build-up to a number of drivers today about the fact driving the Elantra requires a very different approach given how the car handles under braking. As they make the way in towards turn number 1, he's got Reese Watt up his inside, has Joseph Doble, and there goes Watt looking for the move. Doble's going to cut back here. It's a brilliant bit of racecraft from both of them as they head in towards turn number 2, but Reese Watt will defend. Now can Doble go all the way around the outside? Alex Meredith is closing behind. Fastest lap of the race from Mikey Doble in P14 at 21.608. Doble's pace right now absolutely setting the timing towers alight as they make the way through. Meanwhile, I believe as they head into the braking zone, we've had confirmation of Delmont's retirement from this race. Doble on the inside into turn number 3 there, but it's going to be Watt who tries to get his nose into 4, but he can't. It's a beautiful move finished by Joseph Doble in the end to defend the position, but Reese Watt has not given up from this as they now make the way down in towards turn number 5, and as they do, through the left hand, and Watt goes a bit deep, and that will compromise his line, and it will cause Meredith and Paul Scott now to close up as they head in towards turn number 8, but as they do so, you can see how close they've been running, and right now Joseph Doble being made to work for every place, where it's a pro or a prime, he's passing along the way with another 4 laps to go after this one. But as they head in towards turn number 9 right now, the things calm down between the pair. And as they do, we look back to Benjamin McCluskey. And McCluskey right now on the offence. It will be an under attack from William Guthrie. And Guthrie looking up the inside here into turn number 1. And it's the battle of the Velosters. There's contact between them and they both take each other off the road. And with that, that is going to release Manners up to the outside here of Guthrie, where it's also released what is Pike gone through. And Manners is back into the podium positions here. Currently P3 now overall. And will Guthrie and McCluskey, I think, will be looking back at that one and thinking they could have done it a little bit better. But I think Guthrie may have carried a little bit too much speed then in the subsequent contact, pulled the pair of them off the road. Albeit again, from the camera angle we saw that might have been the case, but it may have been a completely different story otherwise. But as Manners right now looks to take his P2, Russell Fowler was not able to follow him through, and the Performance League Esports driver now be a bit frustrated in the fact he's in P2 in class, but Manners has got a pro between him and his rivals. They make the way through the corners, but as they charge in towards turn number 6, meanwhile further behind Matthew Addy, still glued to the back of Michael Leesa, P7 in prime class, P15 overall, as they head down through the corners here. Keep in mind, of course, this is the last overall point for this race, but also they're fighting to be as high up as in the order as possible for those top 13 positions. Ideally otherwise it's the top 23 where they want to be for that potential reverse grid pole. So it's all to play for here in terms of positioning, and right now the last eligible driver will be Wayne Douglas, P23, the Next Gen Racing Team Pink driver, all the way down there, but you never know, he could get reverse grid pole if fortune smiles his way. But meanwhile, William Guthrie goes around the outside there of what is Ian Manners into turn 1, and Manners not fighting it too hard. I think the tyres on that Honda are giving in. Russell Fowler, meanwhile, is not giving in as they make the way through turn number 2. He's trying to put the pressure on here as the Performance League Esports driver as they come through the long right hander. Beninin has the back off, and the problem with this Audi is the gearing is so aggressive that you have to essentially bob the car down in a higher gear, or you've got to be running right on the rev limiter through these gears, and with that, it means if he doesn't pick his gears right, Fowler could lose a lot of speed from corner to corner, something which the other 3 cars on this grid do not have the issue of. But conversely, Fowler has all the acceleration on the straights here as he makes his way down to turn number 5, right on the back of the 52 car of Manners as they head on towards 6. And again, notice it, he opens turn 6 up, he wants the speed out of the corner here, and he'll now start to build up. And whilst it is a 0.2 of a second gap as they begin the run on the straight, by the time they get well and truly into the sweeper of turn number 8, they go into it now. Fowler's right there once again within 1.5 tenths. But dirty air over the front of the car, plus also the fact it's going to taper the corner. It means that Fowler can't really push hard here, so he has to back off and try to get the better exit out of the corner. But as they dip and make their way round, only another 2 laps to go here in this second race of the day. 25 races still in this one out of 31 starters. And as they head up towards turn number 1 for the penultimate time, Fowler there, but not quite able to look for the move. Meanwhile, McCluskey looking to defend here versus John Higgins Jr. Meanwhile, Manners goes wide, and I think that's going to release Fowler into the lead. Manners is going to try and stay there, but it doesn't work. Meanwhile, it's pandemonium behind as Higgins Jr. caught up by McCluskey out of 1. Now has Jamie Dorian Joseph Doble there, and well, it's going to be your championship leader who's looking for the move on the inside to outside into 3 here versus Dory. Can he get it done, or will Dory be able to defend it? And I think Dory's going to have this as Doble's made to tuck in behind. Reese Watt and Alex Meredith are closed up. As they come into the break, it's over turn number 4. Well, that's Higgins Jr. on a wide line there. I think he's tried to look around the outside, of which McCluskey can't quite find it, and in return, they're now all settled down to line astern. But between these guys, it is literally minuscule, the gap between them, as they roll on through and down through turn number 6. And right now, at any moment, even the smallest of mistakes could completely invert this order. We're always said and done, and all battling for the top 10 right now as they make the way into turn number 8. But as they charge with the long right hander, meanwhile Isaac Doble continues to surge his way up the order, battling with Paul Scott here in the closing stages. And the Double Sim Racing driver wants P5 in the prime class. Those will be some big points, and they could be some key points, and getting him right back in the top 3 fight of the championship as they make the way up towards turn number 1 for lap number 14. Well, the white flag waves, and with it now, every corner becomes critical here at the big Willow Raceway circuit as they make the way into turn number 1. As Paul Scott looks around the outside there at Alex Meredith. Meredith going defensive. This will cause the trio to fall off of the back of the group in front as they make the way into turn number 2. Meredith still making the car wide. Mikey Doble sets a new fastest lap of the race in P14 at 21.45 to the nearest 100th. Sensational pace from Mikey Doble, it must be said. But meanwhile, as they make the way up here in the battle for P4 in the prime class, the battle for the lead of the Pro-Am class, indeed P4 overall continues its way with Russell Fowler holding off Ian Manners, but I think right now Ian Manners might just end up becoming a little bit of a cork here in the proverbial bottle of pro drivers behind him as they come down through turn number 5, and right now they are all separated between each car by 2.5 tenths as they roll their way out towards turn number 8, and this time it looks like there's not too much between them. Everyone's staying exactly where they are. Will we see any potential moves into the final corner? It's a difficult place to overtake at turn number 9. It relies really more on a mistake. Whilst they come into the corner, this man is clearing its apex, and it is Kieran Sharp who, as he makes his way out of the final corner, it's been some time since we've seen the Sim Racing Collective on top, and it's going to be a 1-2 for the team as Kieran Sharp leads home that 1-2 ahead of Andrew Pike, and then it'll be William Guthrie who finishes P3 for Full Tilt B Motorsport ahead of Russell Fowler, who holds on to take the prime win for Performance Link Esports just ahead of Ian Manners P5, Benjamin McCluskey P6, John Higgins Jr. P7, Jamie Dory P8, Joseph Doble P9, and a phenomenal drive from Joseph Doble. It has to be said, 15 places gained for Double Sim Racing. Reese Watt P10, final podium finisher in the prime class, and Paul Scott P11. Just the best of the rest there for Sam Case with NXTGEN at P4 in the class. But meanwhile, we've still got a few drives to finish this race, including what will be Ian Wild, who will take P20 in a stronger second race of the day for CS Sim Racing and Mally Motors as he heads across the line there. P20, P11 in the class. The team will really appreciate the points and his performance. And then Mark Sykes Designs. Mark Sykes just holds off Nick Clemens to the line in the battle for P21 overall ahead of what will be Wayne Douglas, who'll be one of the last finishers of the race. In fact, he'll be the last finisher on the lead lap as the NXTGEN Racing pink driver heads on through the final corner, and the 66 Veloster heads to the line here. Well, the checkered flag waves for him, and he'll take his checkered flag. We still do have what is one more drive to make his way across the line, albeit 2 laps down, in the form of Jaroslav Sabula as the Semper Racing driver crosses the line here. A difficult race, but still one more to go, and you never know what could happen. P25 will be his starting position on the grid, however. But meanwhile, the story of race number 2, the Sim Racing Collective, making it a 1-2 for Sharp and Pike, and Kieran Sharp leading a phenomenal race, and the same for Andrew Pike, to be fair. Both of them seizing on the opportunities in front of them and not looking back. And Russell Fowler back on the top step of the prime class. It's been some time, but at the same time, Ian Manners doing well to hold on for the time he did, but a couple mistakes late on, I think the tyres giving way, and the 52 driver there, as we can see, Reese Watt giving him a little bit of nudge to say, come on, you could have had that, but I think that's all sporting between the two teammates in the pit lane as they make the way on through. And as they do, ladies and gentlemen, we take a look to the seeded pictures, and let's take you through those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. So as we can see, Kieran Sharp there. Of course, these are subject to Stewart's inquiries, as we say, but taking the win there for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of teammate Andrew Pike. And then we can see after them by what was the best part of 1.6 seconds, William Guthrie P3 for Full Tilt B Motorsport ahead of what was your pro and winner in the Higgins Automotive class of Russell Fowler for Performance Link Esports. Just what was in the end 7 tenths clear of Ian Manners, the runner-up for JW Motorsport, and continuing his streak of podiums and top 5s overall. Benjamin McCluskey at P6 for NXTGEN Racing ahead of John Higgins Jr. And then Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing Ping ahead of Joseph Doble for Doble Sim Racing, and Reese Watt completed your overall top 10. And also the JW Motorsport driver, 3rd place in the prime class, completed that prime podium of Fowler, Manners and Watt. Paul Scott P11 for Sam Case with NXTGEN, best of the rest there ahead of Mikey Doble, and Mikey Doble doing well after that open lap instant between him and Kieran Sharp to make his way all the way back up to P12 and definitely be inside that reverse grid no matter what happens with regards to the number drawn. Isaac Doble, the last driver who is guaranteed to be on that reverse grid, so Isaac Doble there for Doble Sim Racing doing a great job getting himself well within the confines of it, ahead of Alex Meredith, and then Michael at least completing the top 15 and the final point position in the overall standings. Matthew Addy P16 for Sam Case with NXTGEN, not quite able to find his way past the Mark Sykes Designs driver, with then Alan McCain, Luke Jones, Luciano Vitford, and Ian Wild completing your top 20, and that's the CS Sim Racing with Mally Motors driver there. He was 6 seconds clear of Mark Sykes, ahead of Nick Clemens with Wayne Douglas, the last lead lap finisher and the last driver who is eligible for a reverse grid pole should the number 23 be drawn. Ben Altrier for Full Tilt B Motorsport finishing a lap down the end ahead of Jaroslav Sabula, who finished 2 laps down for Semper Racing, and then retiring 5 laps in the end, Sam Smith for iRacing Esports. We had quite a few retirements in this race, it must be said. Also there, Adam Delmont 6 laps in the end, Lee Horn 8 laps in the end, the same for Jonathan Collins, Matthew Sheraton only a lap into the race, having to retire, and retiring on the lead lap after the car got beached on the exit of what was turn number 5, the start of turn number 6. Dan Mould there for SRL, and that will be a huge blow to the 80 Drivers Championship charge going into this final race of the day and the season finale. But still, ladies and gentlemen, we do have one more race to come. It's the reverse grid race coming up, race 3 of 3 today. And, well, very shortly, we will be cutting away as the race gets prepared. But, of course, we have the all-important question of that reverse grid draw. And without further ado, let's get underway with it. So good evening to you all. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing thus far. To take you through how we do this is the NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl. Within here are the numbers 6 through to 12. Very shortly, what I'm going to do is close my eyes, shuffle the balls and draw one at a time. And once we've drawn 2 balls, we'll add the numbers together and that will be your reverse grid position from between P13 and P23. Without further ado, let's do this. So our first number of the day will be... It is the number 12, ladies and gentlemen, the largest number in the pool, so we are going to be seeing quite a sizable reverse grid today as a minimum. Could we see the maximum if the number 11 that comes on out? Well, we'll give it another shuffle. And here we go. This will be our second number, and it's the number 6. So today, we've only got a top 18 reverse grid, and that means that Luke Jones for JW Motorsport will be starting on pole position. But it is the number 18, the first time this season we have seen it in this form of 6 and 12. But still, it's going to make for a cracking race. And with the front row consist of Luke Jones and Alan McCain, 2 drivers who've definitely been deprived of some huge results this season. Will one of them be able to bring home that prime win and perhaps also what is an overall podium, if not the overall win? We'll find out all that and more in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time. We'll be back soon, but until then, don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the final race of today at the Willow Springs International Raceway. It's race 3 of 3. The temperature has dropped somewhat. The ambient now 18 degrees centigrade and track temperature only 20 degrees centigrade. But whilst the environment may have cooled, I can tell you one thing. Things are only continuing to heat up for our drivers. It was a race 2 that had quite a few bumps and scrapes up and down the field, but it also got to see some brilliant battles. But for it all, and we're top 18 reverse grid now going into our final race of the day. It'll be a JW Motorsport car on the front row and on pole once again for this final race. But it'll be this man, Luke Jones, who'll start on pole. And well, can he potentially pull off some magic to echo what's been done by Ian Manners in race 1 and race number 2? We'll have to wait and see. But it's been some time since we've seen the 2-1-1 driver competing for a podium in the Pro-Am class, let alone a win. But then again, you never know what can happen here in the final race of the day. And it's always the one that seems to throw the ultimate curveball in the race, because of course the field gets inverted up to a point, and that means you've got your faster drivers having to fight the way through, but they're also having to fight the way through with success ballast, whereas the drivers who start right up the front, they don't have the additional weight, and therefore they can gradually try to break away. Albeit that is if they don't fight one another. And how many times have we seen this season where a top 3 or 4 of Pro-Ams or Pros and Pro-Ams mixed together, all going for the win, end up battling so hard they're forced backwards towards the faster drivers coming through the field? Or could we see that again here today, given the intense pace of this circuit and just how quickly battling dwindles away your lap time? Well, as we look to John Higgins Jr., one of the Sim Racing Collective drives in number 5. Another great top 10 performance from the Briton. And well, he'll be looking to do that once more here before all is said and done today. And as he heads on down the start for the straight, in fact, I'm going to park the car up there, and I think deciding to bring it into the pits. Meanwhile, we do look to Matthew Addy, who winds his way around through turn number 8 into 9, and the Sam Case of the next-gen driver. I think he'll be feeling comfortable now after a great race 1, a race 2 that was a little bit quieter by comparison, but still one more race of the cars. He takes a little bit of a liberal line there, going into the pit lane, a bit of a rally cross line, with only 30 seconds left on the clock. You can forgive him for doing so, and I think all of our drivers now just itching to go green flag race in this final time today. And I'll tell you one thing, a good number of drivers definitely have been enjoying it around this circuit, and we've seen how many of you guys and girls in the respective chats have been enjoying it, including Dave Unknown, one who has been cheering on the Sim Racing Collective, and in particular cheering on what was there Kieran Sharp for bringing home the win in the second race of the day. And as our drivers now all get set, we're hearing the Tampax Comfort there in the YouTube chat, not doing race 3 due to feeling unwell, but wishing everybody the best of luck. And it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for our drivers to head to the grid. As they make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the final race of the day. It is Luke Jones who takes pole position for JW Motorsport on the reverse grid ahead of iRacing Esports' Alan McCain. On row number 2, it'll be Matthew Addy for Sam Cases with Next Gen, joined by Mark Sykes Designs' Michael Lease, with Alex Meredith for Kenny Twitty Motorsport and Doble Sim Racing's Isaac Doble completing your top 6. On row number 4, it's Mikey Doble for Double Sim Racing, joined by Sam Case for Next Gen's Paul Scott, and then at Reswap for JW Motorsport and Double Sim Racing's Joseph Doble complete your top 10. This could be a huge race for Double Sim Racing with all their drivers starting inside the top 10. Jamie Dory at P11 for Next Gen Racing Pink, ahead of John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective. And on row number 7, it will be Benjamin McCluskey, joined by Ian Manners, followed up by Russell Fowler and Andrew Pike on row number 8. Row number 9 goes to Kieran Sharp and Lucio Vidford, with what is then the top 20 being completed by Ian Wild and Mark Sykes. Then row number 11, it's Nick Clemens and Wayne Douglas, followed up by Ben Altria and Jaroslav Sabulov. But we must start the race, ladies and gentlemen. Lights are coming, and as they do, it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day. And Luke Jones gets a good start of the line, but look at Addy, he takes 1, he's going to try and take 2. He's going to do it around the outside. If so, this is going to be brave from Addy. He's got a nose ahead into the opening corner, but can he convert it as they come through? I think he can, albeit Jones gets back ahead now as they make the way in towards the braking zone. Wayne Douglas off in the rear of the picture. I don't know how that's happened, but Addy has to back out in the end. So Luke Jones does successfully defend that starting pole position, but as they come through turn number 2 and up towards 3, I'm hearing Douglas with a bit of contact with another driver, albeit I have to confirm that later. But meanwhile, as they make their way down into the braking zone, Mikey Doble already up places as he heads in towards the left-hander at turn 3, having a phenomenal start. Car in front going wide. That's Matthew Addy making a mistake. He's going to rejoin, but Addy's going to clatter his way back into the circuit. That is going to be painful, as that will damage the suspension of the car. Now damage all his pace up the hill, and now down in towards turn number 5. And Matthew Addy might right now be falling a long way down the order, and if that suspension's heavily damaged, it might be a run to the pits. But meanwhile, got cars on the rear picture. That's Lee Horn, also Mark Sykes, and I think that's also with him none other than Ben Altrier, so it's a disaster for the trio there. But meanwhile for Addy, it's still battling side by side with Alex Meredith, trying to keep the Kiwi Motorsport driver at bay as they come through turn number 8 up towards 9. But everyone now started to settle into a degree of order as they come into the sweeper and through, but heading up towards turn number 1. More right now, Overdrive's still out there, no safety car to call with the battling that's happened. And as they head on to lap number 2, it is Luke Jones who leads ahead of Michael Leeds P2, followed up there by Mikey Doble P3, Alan McCain P4, then Isaac Doble P5, Matthew Addy P6, Alex Meredith P7, then Reese Watt P8, Jamie Dory P9, albeit we say that Jamie Dory looking around the outside here into turn number 1, so they could swap. John Higgins Jr. P10 behind them, and then Joseph Doble P11 best the rest right now, but Reese Watt's going to fend off Jamie Dory on the outside run through 2. As they come up for the long right-hander. Meanwhile, everyone together here, and we ride on board with Kieran Sharp, who battling side by side with Luciano Bitford as they head in towards turn number 3. Bitford's on his left-hand side, however, as they enter the braking zone, so it's not over between them yet. But everyone right now getting very close, very nip and tuck here, and Sharp having to be very sensitive where he positions the car, knowing he's only got a finite amount of room, and those curbs absolutely treacherous to the suspension as they come out of 4 and into 5. But everyone negotiates it this time as they head into the braking zone, and as they do, little bit there running deep from Paul Scott. That's going to give Foot the opportunity to go around the outside. Paul Scott backs off on the throttle and rides tight. Sharp's now going to get the cutback run out of 6 as they paddle through, but no, it's out. Scott's calls the field to break apart as they make their way in towards the next braking zone. Albeit that's turn number 9. It's a long way to go. Side by side here, Sharp with Scott, with Pike tucking in behind Sharp, trying to hope the Sim Racing Collective can make it a two-way pass at one corner. Car going slowly there off circuit, and that, I believe, is Ben Altrier, who's currently a lap down, so therefore he's steering clear of everybody before going back onto the circuit. And as they make the way on to the next lap, well, Mikey Doble already up into what is P2. Michael Lease, meanwhile, wasting no time, much like Mikey in terms of trying to battle for positions, albeit Leeds right now has to try and keep where's Alan McCain and Isaac Doble behind him, as Isaac Doble under a bit of pressure from Matthew Addy. And as they come through turn number 2 and on the rise they go towards turn number 3. Well, right now these guys with Addy really trying to get back into the fight here. I think Doble just focusing on keeping at that position and gradually bringing McCain and Lease into the mix. A little bit behind of Reese Watt here on the outside. Once again, that's Joseph Doble at the inside, so it will be the championship leader taking that position of a Reese Watt for P9. Bitford behind in P11 now, trying to get into the mix as well, but I think finding that's a tough task as Jamie Dory still there with him, and then McCluskey, Sharp and Pike all together. We have Sabula on the back of this battle as well as he makes his way down through turn number 5, battling with some front end understeer there. As you can see, the car initially turning in and wanting to go straight on, and a Paul ran out the corner is actually going to give Paul Scott the opportunity to close up behind. You can see Sabula losing the best part of a 10th down the run through 6 into 7. And as they come into long right hand sweeper at turn number 8 now, well, Sabula here will have a bit of space, have some breathing room. He won't have to worry about as much dirty out of the back of Pike's car, and coming into that braking zone, you can see just gradually feathering the nose into the corner, having to deal with the dirty air, being able to do so, but everyone running wide there and carrying the speed. Well, they won't be told off for that one, and given the fact they don't really gain anything by running wide, they actually lose a little bit of time on the dirt. And as they make their way to turn number 1, Sabula right now closing, but not quite able to find the way in. But as they head in towards turn number 2, almost a run wide there from Pike, everybody absolutely pushing a bit further back behind them. Clemens on the outside here of what is Manners, albeit Manners is the one trying to make the move stick here for what is P18. That's going to be P10 in the prime class between them. Manners, of course, having the hardest task, which is to be starting towards the back of that reverse grid, and therefore with all the weight he's got in the car as well for that top 5 finishing position, having a battle against prime drivers who've got no weight and are eager to take some points off of him. And as they make their way through 3, Fowler there also trying to get into the mix but can't find his way in. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble up the inside there of what is Luke Jones for the lead in this race, coming down through turn number 5. And well, I think that was a move that many of you in the chats were commenting on the fact it was going to happen at some point, but how exactly did it happen? Here it is. as they made the way down into turn number 5 there. Jones just going a bit deep, catches the car in time, and well, the two velocity drives exchanging the places there, and I think Jones learning from that mistake, but also I think he'll be grateful for the fact that now he can just focus on his race and not worry about the pro drive from Doble Sim Racing coming on through and potentially disrupting his momentum as they go on to the next lap. But as they charge their way on to lap number 5 now, fastest lap of the race in the prime class from Alan McCain, a 22.231, but then we can see a new fastest lap overall from Bitford in P11, a 22.124, so those lap times tumbling down here. Matthew Addy still in a battle with what is here Alex Meredith as they come through, and Meredith right now are really sticking to his guns here, which is to try and keep Addy at bay, and I wonder whether Addy might be getting a bit frustrated this, knowing that Isaac Doble 2 seconds up the road is on similar pace, these guys, in clear air, and right now all that's happening is they're being forced backwards as Addy hits the inside curve at turn number 3. Meanwhile, it's an absolute stockade here between drivers, with Whitford still keeping what Dorian McCluskey, Sharp and Pike behind him as they come through, falling down into 5, but as they do so, meanwhile, Paul Scott a bit further back has got, looking up the inside of him here into turn number 5A, if you will, what is Russell Fowler, but Fowler can't find his way through, but meanwhile we've got a bit of smoke there as the car got off the road. I think John Higgins Jr. might have had a bit of an incident coming on through turn number 6 from what I'm hearing in my ear. We'll get an update on that very shortly, but meanwhile Luke Jones has also fallen down the order. He's fallen to Lees, also to McCain and Isaac Doe. What on earth has happened for Jones? It's gone very, very wrong in the space of what is half a lap since we last looked at him, and the places have just tumbled away, and well, I think we will have a replay to explain what happened shortly, but we're not going to cut away whilst Alan McCain's under pressure from Isaac Doble, as Doble looks up the inside here, and right now trying to emulate his brother, the leader of this race, but he can't quite make it happen. Looks up the inside, but Alan McCain holds on as they make the way in towards turn number 2. And as they come through the long right-hander, right now McCain definitely under pressure, and it's going to release Michael Lees to just take the lead of the prime class and try and pull it off into the distance, as Doble there now tucks in behind once again. But as we ride on board and look back from the rear of McCain's car, looking up from the rear lip spoiler just underneath the actual rear wing, we're coming up towards what will be turn number 4 now, and you can see there the velocity of Doble having to pick its line and get itself set up for success on the next run. But through turns 4 into 5, it's really all about just staying close and trying to get your rival to make an error that opens the door in the run out of 6 up towards turn number 8 as they come down and up towards the long sweeping right-hander. Isaac Doble right now 3/10 away, but McCain and the Elantra speed here having the leverage to keep that gap wide open as they head in towards turn number 8. Lee's just in front of this battle as well, so I think McCain right now finding himself sandwiched in between 2 drivers, and as they come into turn number 9, well, McCain here is going to take a bit of a tighter line in order to try and steer clear of what will be Isaac Doble. But in return, as we've got a car off in the distance there, and that is 2 cars off. That is, I do believe, both Alex Meredith, who's taken the long distance approach to turn number 9, and also what was Reese Watt, and also another car off in the rear of the picture, and that is, I believe, Sam Smith, who's got it wrong. So multiple drivers getting it wrong. Lou Jones into the pit lane with, I think, damage to the car of some description. So it's disaster for 3 out of 4 of our pro-am drivers, I should say that, and also pro falling victim to the dreaded turn 9. But meanwhile, where others lose out, it's going to be to the gain of other members of their class. And right now Russell Fowler finds himself with both Paul Scott and Dan Mould behind, as Mould here trying to pick his way past the pair of them, the pro driver. Well, he's going to look up the inside of 2, but it'll be the outside of 3, but Paul Scott goes to the 3 wide, going in to the chicane as they come on through. Paul Scott can't quite get it done, and Russell Fowler right now under huge pressure here from Dan Mould as they make the way onwards towards what will be turn number 5 as they come on down the hill. Right now Fowler, I think, just feeding as though he's got to hold position, hold firm. Mould's going to have to run out of 5 into 6, but Fowler's there, but it's going to be Mould who gets the better exit off of 6. He carries all the speed, and as they charge their way up towards turn number 8, and Dan Mould gains another position, moves up to P17 as they head on towards what will be the second half of this race. But as they come on around, we have got quite a few things to discuss with regards to incidents that have occurred. And, well, the pandemonium of what happened at the turn number 9 is going to be preceded by what happened to Luke Jones when he started to lose places. And we take a look back here. This was on lap number 5, I do believe, and this was Jones battling with Michael Lease into turn 3. Jones defend on the inside as they came on through, and Jones just having a poor run through the corner, to be fair, nothing more than that, completely innocent. And in the end, Jones falling back in the places, started to fall after that, but Michael Lease with an absolutely classic move there on Jones, and well, that started the story. But as they headed on through, meanwhile, we do need to take a look back at what happened to what was Reese Watt and Alex Meredith, and here is Reese Watt in terms of what happened on lap number 6, coming on through in turn number 9, and well, the car running wide there, and Alex Meredith only moments before that running very, very wide indeed. So I think just multiple drivers getting it wrong, and Luke Jones having to come into the pits due to some damage picked up on the car. But we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, not to step too far away from the race in action, and we look back here to the battle between Michael Lease and Isaac Doble. And well, since we've cut away, Michael Lease has had a bit of an incident because Alan McCain has got ahead. Meanwhile, Vitford and what is John Higgins Jr. Higgins Jr. here all fired up, trying to go for what is the top 5, but oh goodness me, and there's been a shunt between what is there Vitford and Higgins Jr. I'm not sure if that was predated with some contact with Joseph Doble or whether it was a tyre dipped on the grass at turn number 8, but either way it's gone very wrong for them. Joseph Doble has survived it, but meanwhile Michael Lease from that now needs to worry about the younger member of the Doble family, and there's contact between the two of them, and well, Isaac Doble, they're forced off the road. Now the camera angle there not very positive to Michael Lease, but again we don't know the story, but Michael Lease and Isaac Doble definitely go into some contact there. So the Doble family both experiencing a little bit of in chaos as this race now starts to head towards its closing stages, albeit we need to take a look back at what exactly happened in those instances if we can. And will meanwhile, on his debut, races 1 and 2 have been very difficult for the Semper Racing driver, but right now Jaroslav Sabula enjoying a much better race number 3, a bit of a tap there on the rear of the car from Matthew Addy, but right now as he runs slightly wide coming out of 5 and down through 4 and into 5 I should say, but now brings it on around here, and Sabula digging in as much as he can. He wants not just this top 10 overall, but a P4 in the class, and I think he'd be very pleased if he's able to make that happen, given the fact he's fighting with some of the very best drivers in the class right behind him, including Matthew Addy, Imaz and Reese Watt. Speaking of Reese Watt here, looking up the inside of Manners, well, these two are going to do a swap of position, and well, I think Reese Watt feeling as though he's the faster of the two drivers, and Manners is not going to complain of that, given the fact he's also got all that success ballast in the car as Manners. But then Watt goes a bit deep, coming through 8 into 9, still swap it back, and Watt just not able to get a grip on turn number 9 like his teammate can, and therefore this is costing more and more time as they head up towards lap number 10. Right behind him is Nick Clemens all over the rear bumper, and going in to the left-hander. Will there be a potential move from Wiz Clemens? No, there's not for now, but Watt runs a bit wide again. Clemens constantly salivating and slithering all over the back of him, and he just seems to can't find a way as he makes his way through turn number 2. But meanwhile, Michael Lease here battling side by side with Joseph Doble, and well, right now the number 11 at Veloster, Joseph Doble, wanting that P3, wanting the points in order to extend his championship lead as much as possible going to the season finale, or at least maintain it as much as he can. But as they come on down, then you have got Isaac Doble behind, so everybody in the long line of cars as they make the way out of the corner, but this is going to be an opportunity as Lease goes wide, too wide as they come over the crest of 6, and well, right now Joseph Doble's just got to commit to his line, and Isaac will try and follow him through as they make the way up towards turn number 8, but can he do so as now Jamie Dory looks around the outside in towards turn number 8, and as they head through the long right hander, will Lease their defence on the inside. Isaac Doble pinned on the low line into turn number 9, so Dory's going to try and make 1, he's going to try and make 2, can he get both of them done here through the long right hander? He's going for it, but in the end he runs wide, Lease runs wide as well, and that's going to give Isaac Doble an opportunity. I think there was contact between Dory and Lease, but meanwhile, look at this. McCluskey's going through on the inside versus Lease. Charge on 3 is going to try and go for it as well. Versus Isaac Doble into the braking zone. They go 3 wide under braking, but in the end, it's going to be Isaac Doble who holds on here with huge pressure. The long train of cars, that's 11 cars in a long line in the battle for P4 right now, and Isaac Doble has got the unenviable task of keeping every single one of them behind as they make the way through 2. Meanwhile, brother Joseph and Mikey at the front of the field, they're running away to make it a 1-3 on the podium overall, with Alan McCain between the two of them, your prime leader. But everyone else right now is caught behind the Isaac Doble train. And whether he's channeling a little bit of his inner Giano Trulli, if you will, from the Formula 1 era or not, well, that remains to be seen. But Isaac Doble right now definitely manages extremely well, the number 65 driver, as he comes down through turn number 5, and everybody looking left, right and centre, and they just cannot find a way past, or if they try to, somebody else behind them will look for the move instead. But now it's going to be an opportunity here for McCluskey. Switches on the inside to the outside, he throws the dummy. Doble defends in the middle of the road, but he knows he can't push McCluskey off the road, and as they come all the way round, McCluskey right now, where he's going to be side by side as they head in towards turn number 9, but remember he's on an outside line, it's an off-camber corner, and that means he can't carry the speed, he's got to try and cut it back. He does so here, but the gap is 3/10, and it's Veloster and Veloster as they charge away back up through the gearboxes. McCluskey's got the toe, he's got the time, but has he got it under braking it to try and get it done with Joseph Doble only 5 tenths up the road? McCluskey could be going through for a late podium here as they head through the left hand at 3 laps remaining. McCluskey all over the back of Isaac Doble. Looking into turn number 2, he tries so hard to force the door open, but Isaac sees it's coming and slams the door firmly shut in his face as they make the way out of 2 in towards 3. It's brilliant racing here between the two of them as they head up towards turn number 3. Kieran Sharp is right behind this as well as they head up through the chicane and going in towards the Budweiser corner of 4, but as they do, Jamie Dory losing the rear of the car slightly there, everybody having to tighten in behind the number 1 Elantra as they come down through the right-hander. Jaroslav Stabula there down to P11, being passed by Dory quite recently, and Bitford meanwhile in P12, and as they all come on down, we were going to get some replays of the instance that happened earlier. I think we're going to be staying with this action for the remainder of the race, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind us doing so, in the fact that right now this battling is right on a knife edge here, and any moment a move could be made, and this could completely upset the run. And to point out, this is the run from P3 all the way down to P17. You have got 15 cars separated by a grand total of 5 seconds as they make the way on through here. And as we can see, Dan Mould right at the back of this group, he's just trying to knock on the first door of it, which is Russell Fowler, and he's running out of time as they make the way on the start for this straight. And now more 2 wides here as Matthew Addy tries to hold on to the position off of Michael Lees. Lees having a poor run out of turn number 9, and Addy will get that done. He takes P8. Meanwhile, cars running wide there, and that is the Sim Racing Collective here. Kieran Sharp and Andrew Pike in synchronicity getting it wrong. Meanwhile, on the inside into turn number 2 goes what is there, I do believe, Ian Manners looking for the move versus what is Reese Watt, albeit does he get it done? He does, and well, now moving on through. In fact, that's on Nick Clemens, my apologies, they're getting the names mixed up, but Clemens losing a place to Ian Manners. Meanwhile, Sabula's just in front, and now within arm's reach of Manners, if only he can reach out and make the move happen. But as they wind their way up the hill, a bit further back, we have had Wayne Douglas and Sam Smith exchange place after Sam Smith's had an off track, and is still recovering out of turn number 2. But as they come down the hill here, everybody under heavy braking. Worn tyres. Meanwhile, Michael Lees is struggling there, and it's going to lead to Vitford and Dory coming together as a result. Vitford gets on through. Dory there being boxed in at the wrong time. Vitford takes 1. He's going to try and take 2 around the outside of turn number 8 here. And as they come through, the Brabham Esports driver, he's got the confidence, he's got the momentum, but has he got it done? And the answer is no, because right now Lees comes back on the lower line, and this is going to force Vitford to have to cut it back or carry the momentum all the way round. But in the end, Lees gets it covered off. Meanwhile, they're all running wide there. They're all trying to carry too much momentum as they head up towards turn number 1. The white flag waves. It's the final lap of racing, ladies and gentlemen, and right now they're all scrambling for this P9 position. And Vitford still battling around the outside of Lees. He goes for it and he gets it done. Brilliant driving there from Vitford. The pro drive comes up through. Lees now to the inside. Can't find it. Meanwhile, look at Sabula. He's going around the outside as well as the Semper Racing driver. But as they come through turn number 2, behind them, Manners and Clemens nose to tail as well. Sabula here trying to make the move happen. They're rubbing door to door as they enter the braking zone, and Jaroslav Sabula makes the move on Lees. He goes up the inside into 3. It's a nice move, but can he get stopped? No, he hits the curb. The car goes straight on. There's contact with Lees, and it all starts to unfold as they head up the hill, but everybody somehow manages to win. It's 3 wide. Manners there squeezes his way onto the inside apex, and Lees across the front of Sabula. It all starts to unfold rapidly there, and well, my goodness, for them to all get away from it through the corners is incredible. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, they make the way on through. We have to cut to this man who out front is having none of the hysterics or the madness. He's had a controlled race from start to finish up to taking the lead, and Mikey Doble will see the checker flag and take the win for Doble Sim Racing, the 88 Veloster, and it will be by a margin of 8 seconds in the end over your prime winner of Alan McCain, who returns to the top step after a season without wins for iRacing Esports P2, and Joseph Doble rounds off the overall podium for Doble Sim Racing ahead of brother Isaac, your runner-up in the prime class, Benjamin McCluskey P5. Kieran Sharp P6, Andrew Pike P7, Matthew Addy P8, Luciano Vitford P9, Ian Manners P10, Dan Mould P11, and there'll be Nick Clemens, Reece Watt, Jamie Dory and Russell Fowler complete your top 15, with Jaroslav Sabula P60 in the end after that contact release. Speaking of which, Paul Scott P17 ahead of Michael Lees. Oh goodness me, and well there Michael Lees demonstrating the runoff ramp that a lot of drivers were worried about going into tonight if they got it wrong, but they're launching the car into the air, I think in celebration of the racing today. And then Luke Jones will be our last lead lap finisher here as he makes his way on around. And well, ladies and gentlemen, once Jones has crossed the line, we are taking a look back at that battle for what was P4 downwards in the end. We're not quite done in looking at racing action because, my goodness, many of you are asking, including Anne Loof, how is Ian Manners alive right now coming through turn number 4? We're going to find that out as we give credit where it's due to Luke Jones. A difficult end to his racing today for JW Motorsport after a great start, but still the 211 driver brings home his checkered flag. P21 there overall, P12 in the Pro-Am class. We had Ian Wild and Ben Alcher as well finish a lap and 2 laps down respectively, but what exactly happened to Manners is the big question you're all asking, and let's take a look back at lap number 14 and find out, ladies and gentlemen, because here's how it all played out. And focus on the JW Motorsport Honda here that somehow squeezed its way on the inside of what was that, I do believe, both Lees and Sabula, and manages to avoid it all, and Manners gaining 2 places there for the price of tucking in and sacrificed it almost. But it wasn't over after that, because then Manners, having to run away from everyone, did so successfully, but the rest of the field trying to come on through. And behind them, it was then the battle of plenty between what was Dan Mould and on top of that Nick Clemens. We could also see Reece Watt try and look for the move. We had to cut away for this to see our race winner come through, of course, as is the only right and fair thing. But as they made the way in towards turn 8 and 9, nobody really able to make a move at this point or too wide. So they came out the corner. A lot of drivers did run wide, however, and did Mould get Clemens at the line? I think he did, or Clemens had a slowdown. We're about to see here, and Mould did get it done right at the line, and Clemens then just holding on against Reece Watt. And that's how they all finished in, ladies and gentlemen. But what a race number 3, it has to be said. I mean, races 1 and 2 were spectacular, but race number 3, I think we'll all agree, has really taken the ticket today. But as all of our drivers make their way into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after another 14 laps of racing and race 3 of 3 in round 9 of season 4 of the NXTGEN, brought to you on iRacing, sponsored by Higgins Automotive, Mikey Doble returning to the top step for Double Sim Racing. It's been some time since we've seen the 88 up there at the very top, but he's made it happen by 8 seconds over Alan McCain for iRace Esports. Credit to McCain, your winner in the Pro-Am class, and it's been a long time since we've seen McCain take a win, but a fantastic drive there for the 212 driver. Head of Joseph Doble for Double Sim Racing to make it a Double Sim Racing at 1-3 on the overall podium, and then only 2 tenths behind Isaac Doble, runner-up in the Prime class, P4 overall, and Double Sim Racing, the team, are going to gain some huge points today to hold their championship lead in place in the Team's Championship going into the season finale. And for Isaac Doble, this could just be the round that puts him back into contention for the Pro-Am Higgins Automotive Championship come at the end of the season. The same can be said for Mikey Doble. This will rocket him back up the stands, and Joseph Doble will continue to lead the championship if my mental mathematics is correct, but still all that next week with a Benjamin McCluskey P5 there for NXTGEN Racing ahead of the Sim Racing collective pair of Kieran Sharp and Andrew Pite. Matthew Addy P8 for Sam Case for NXTGEN, doing very well to hold on to that overall top 8 in the battling around him and completing the Pro-Am podium of McCain, Doble and Addy. Then Luciano Vitford and Ian Manners completing your top 10 with the JW Motorsport driver there. Perhaps the overtake of the season, or the survival moment of the season, depending on how you want to classify it, for the 52 driver there, absolutely risking it all and making it work into turn number 4. Dan Mould, best of rest P11 for SRL, and turning around what was a difficult race 1 and a difficult race number 2 with some great battle in action race number 3, and I don't think you will have minded that. Nick Clemens at P12 there for iRace Esports ahead of Reece Watt for JW Motorsport, and then Jamie Dory just finishing ahead of Russell Fowler, the NXTGEN Racing Pink and Performance Link Esports drivers completing your top 15 overall. And with that, also completing the point finishing positions in the overall standings. We then come on to the remainder of the top 20, and as we can see there, Jaroslav Sabula just missed out on an overall point on his debut, but a P16 there and a P8 in the prime class. The Semper Racing driver, I think, will be happy to get some good points on the board in this final race of the day, ahead of Paul Scott for Sam Case with NXTGEN, and then Michael Lees, Lee Horn and Wayne Douglas completing your top 20. Luke Jones, P21, the JW Motorsport driver, unfortunate to lose out after what was a great start to the race, but still finishing the race there on the lead lap, the last of the lead lap finishers, ahead of the drivers who finished the lap down, including John Higgins Jr., Ian Wild, and then 2 laps down, Sam Smith, and then also Ben Altrier for Full Tilt V Motorsport. 5 laps down with an unfortunate retirement, risky runners with NXTGEN's Jonathan Collins, ahead of Alex Meredith, the number 27 driver for Chemical E Motorsport, and I think his foray into the grass at turn number 9 early on cost him his suspension, finishing 7 laps down in the end. And then your final non-finisher, ladies and gentlemen, at Mark Sykes, or Mark Sykes Designs there, only completing 1 lap and it not going his way, as he's also said in the YouTube chat today under the pseudonym of Mark Sykes Designs. But still fantastic racing, 28 starters and a grand total of what was there, 25 finishers, of which 21 of them on the lead lap. And this racing today has been absolutely phenomenal. I tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that this week I'm not doing the driver of the day call with regards to Higgins Automotive driver of the day. We're going to have John Higgins Senior back very shortly to conduct the driver of the day announcement, and I think he has definitely got his work cut out for him today. But whichever way that goes, we can tell you one thing, it has been a phenomenal day of racing here at the Willow Springs International Raceway, and I think you'll all agree with me, we want this back on a future NXTCC calendar. It's the first time it's been here, it's new to iRacing, and it has absolutely delivered some of the finest racing this season. And we're going to take a brief breather now for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, but when we do return, we return with that Higgins Automotive driver of the day announcement, and then also our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss what's coming up. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day announcement first and foremost before we move on to our post-round interviews of our drivers. With me in the commentary room right now is none other than the man himself, John Higgins. I almost said junior then, looking at you, his name, John Higgins Senior. Almost got it wrong for the first time. How are you doing this evening, John?
Yeah, I'm very well, Paul. How are you? Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's nice to get back. Obviously, missed last week through to due to obviously being away and Junior not racing, and there was other stuff happening. So yeah, it's nice to be back. I think the racing was just scintillating. Is that the right word for that? Having watched practice last night, or watched Junior practice last night, there was some real concerns about what could have happened tonight. I know everybody was struggling in practice yesterday, and they come into tonight, and I'm thinking, is this going to be a rerun of the World Banger Final a couple of weeks ago at Ipswich? Because that's what it looked like last night in practice. But listen, fair dues to everybody. That's a real tricky track tonight. Grip levels and the curb causing issues and people running wide and stuff. But yeah, I thought the race, in particular that race 3, was just absolutely fantastic.
Oh, 100% with you every step of the way. And well, it was unpredictable from lights out to checker flag in each of the races, but particularly that race 3. And well, now, of course, you've had the difficult task of selecting for us a driver of the day for this round. Only 2 rounds to go, this being one of them. But have you got a name?
Yeah, I think there was 2 drivers in particular that have shone tonight, and it came down to race 3, and whoever finished the highest was going to take the driver of the day. And I think Russ Fowler's had a particularly strong night tonight, but without question, the Higgins Automotive driver of the day goes to Ian Manners. I think he had a spectacular 1-2 race, and then I think he had 10th overall, I think, in the final race, and Russ finished 14th. So it was between those 2. If Russ had finished ahead of Ian, then probably Russ would have got driver of the day, but I think Ian's drove the wheels off it tonight, and yeah, just well done to everybody.
Well, indeed, I'd agree with you on that, and I think your reasoning is absolutely spot on. The fact Ian today really did step up to the plate with those results in races 1 and 2, with race 1 in particular holding on to that P2, almost being able to do it again in race 2 and in race number 3, battling to that P10 overall finish and 4th in class. I mean, it's a huge point haul for him, also for JW Motorsport. And well, I think you'll agree with me, John, when it's a team's championship, it's just as much as a driver's championship. His teammates at JW Motorsport are going to be giving him a huge pat on the back after today.
And rightly so. When it all kicked off, and however he's managed to squeeze that up the inside 3 wide and got away with it. Under normal circumstances, iRacing would have probably chucked in a bit of netcode there, because it was probably anticipating a bit of contact, but he's got away with it, and fair dues to him, and then he's just dropped that pack and gone on to his 10th place. So well done, Ian. Richly deserved, mate. I think you drove a absolute brilliant 3 races all night.
Oh, indeed. And just before we do come on to our interviews, John, a quick word about the Higgins Automotive business. Of course, we missed you last week, but as you say, being on the road in the real world of motorsport, but now coming back to more settled circumstances. But life and work never stops at Higgins Automotive, and I believe you've got quite a busy workshop at the moment.
Yeah, we're flat out at the moment. So it's been, as I've said a couple of weeks now, it's been a little bit bitty with other things going on personally and stuff. But all the distractions are done now. Obviously, I was down at Silverstone, providing race support for Hills Motorsport, going into the final Mazda MX-5 Super Cup round. Delighted to say that Aidan Hills, who's just been the absolute class of the field, managed to get over the line. So yeah, last Monday we were still down at Silverstone stripping cars and making sure everything was legal. Not that it was ever in any doubt, but that's now fully confirmed. And obviously James Cossins came second in the championship. So that's racing out the way for us this year now. So it's now full focus back on the business and just keep ploughing on and I keep saying it, see where it takes us. It's still early days, but I'm pretty happy, and still lots of work to do to get the workshop finished and the office built and a few other bits and pieces. I've got a few cars for sale at the moment, which will be listed just shortly. So yeah, just onwards and upwards. You just got to keep grinding, man, and just keep trying to earn some money and keep the wolves away from the door. And who knows where this will take us eventually.
Oh, 100% with you on that. And if anybody is interested in checking out Higgins Automotive, I believe, John, it's on Facebook. It's the official group.
It is. It's only on Facebook. I need to get into the other side of social media and get the website built and bits and pieces. But that's probably for next year, early next year, when we have a full push on the private service work and other things that we want to get involved in. I want to launch the Higgins Motorsport side of things. I'm quite into vehicle setup or race car setup and working on race cars away from being at the track. So it's something I've enjoyed when I got into the latter stages of my career. So there's lots of plans, lots of things to do, money to raise, and just keep ploughing on. And like I say, we'll get through this year doing what we're doing, and then next year it's really head down and get going. So I'm enjoying it. I love it.
Glad to hear it, John, and long may the enjoyment continue. But with that, it is now time for us to begin our post-round interviews. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you'll get to hear once again from the man himself, John Higgins Sr., come our season finale next week, when he'll be announcing our final Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. But coming on to our interviews, of which we now have 2 available today, we're going to be hearing first from the number 88 driver of Mikey Doble from Doble Sim Racing. It has been some time since he has joined us in the interview room, but today he has been back on absolutely stellar form, it must be said. And then we'll be hearing from the 44 driver of Alex Meredith for Chemical E Motorsport, who started off strong today, but after qualifying in race number 1 and race number 2 as well, seeing him hold station, race number 3 did not quite work out for him. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring Mikey Doble into the interview room. And as he joins me now, good evening to you, Mikey. It's been some time since I've had the pleasure of having you in the interview room with me, but you're back on fine form, and what a way to return to form here at the big Willow layout or the Willow Springs International Raceway. A win in race number 3, P2 in qualifying, P4 in race number 1, and even a P12 despite it all in race number 2. It must be putting a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's nice to be back in the interview room. I haven't had any results of late to warrant coming in here and for everyone to hear my drone, but no, we're back this week and hopefully somewhere at the pointy end of the championship again. So I actually only bought the track at the start of tonight thinking, oh, it looks like a relatively simple track from a bird's eye view, but actually once you get going, it's anything but. But no, I really gelled with the track and enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, indeed. And coming to grips with the circuit quickly, I have to ask, what is it about this circuit that you found you've gelled to, given the fact, like you say, it looks such a simple circuit on paper, but it's also such a risky circuit. There's no runoff areas, there's absolutely terrifying curbs, and if you do go slightly wide, your car's going to be pulled off into Narnia, to say the least.
Yeah, it's one way of putting it. I mean, the curbs are absolutely brutal around here, and with the way these cars damage, if you clip a curb, you're pretty much gonna break a suspension or put your wheel out of line. So you cannot take any curbs, which I like because it means that it rewards precision. And generally, if precision is of the essence, then I would rise a little bit higher because of my style of being smooth. But also the track, it's a very unique track. It's very fast. It's got lots of long corners which seem to go on forever and ever. And it actually reminds me a bit of Thruxton in the UK, and Thruxton is my favourite track in this country. So there's a lot of corners which are very similar, very bumpy surface as well, which kind of resonates that. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it.
That's absolutely fantastic to hear, and that enjoyment shining on through, and a P2 in qualifying as well. Not quite enough to take pole position of a Benjamin McCluskey, but then again, when you weigh it up, given the fact you're taking the 3rd place success ballast into tonight, I think a P2, suffice to say, was definitely a very strong effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And in free practice, we weren't looking too great on the times. I think it was only P11, and I was actually running no ballast just to try and get my head around the circuit. So I wasn't expecting a great deal going into qualifying, but it was in qualifying that I just clicked with the circuit and the flow of it kind of came to me. So I managed to get a decent tow, and yeah, I nicked P2 on the last lap there, just rinsing everything I could get out of the car. And you know, at other tracks we've been carrying the ballast, and it's really hurt us in qualifying. We haven't really had a decent qualifying since Zandvoort, I think. I can seem to remember. So it was nice to start at the front and kind of out of the trouble zone, if you like, and get a good first race under my belt.
Well, great first race, like you say, albeit I have to ask, starting P2 and then getting the launch off the line, it looked as though both yourself and Benjamin McCluskey really struggled to get the cars to even move 10 metres, let alone make it to turn number 1. And when you did get underway, you were swamped by Russell Fowler and Ian Manners behind you.
Yeah, it wasn't my finest start, I must say. Generally, we've been all right off the line this year in this car compared to the Elantra, but yeah, it just bogged down a little bit, and then I had to slip the clutch again to try and get the revs back up, and at that point you're a bit of a sitting duck. So it was kind of a little bit fortunate for me that the guy to my right got a poor start as well, but I think I was lucky to only lose 2 places there, because I've had other starts before where I've messed up and I've lost 4 or 5 places. But yeah, it wasn't a great start, but I think, to be honest, with the pace we had, we kind of finished about where we should. So I wanted to keep it clean. I didn't want to take too many risks to try and gain one position, because I knew that we was outscoring Dan, who was leading the championship, and also Joseph as well by quite a lot. So the main objective is to take points out of those guys.
Indeed, and doing that very well come the end of race number 1 with what was that P4 finish, and then going into race number 2, it looked as though it was a better start, a good launch off the line, and then early on in the race, a bit of a trip off the circuit going into turn number 3.
Yeah, we've tripped with a little bit of assistance, shall we say, but I've come accustomed to that over the last couple of weeks in various forms of racing. But there we go. Made a good start. Got into 3rd by turn 2, and just got backed up a little bit by Benji in front of me, which kind of made me have to lift out the throttle a little bit through the long turn 2 and dip a wheel in the dirt coming out the corner. And then obviously we're carrying a lot of ballast, the cold tyres. I was offline. We were braking for the left, and unfortunately I just got drilled really from behind, which left me no choice but to obviously go careering off the track. So luckily there was no great big barrier there waiting for me this time, and we could actually get back onto the track and carry on. And then it was kind of head down, and kind of had the bit between my teeth to try and claw as many positions back as we could. And the pace was actually mega in that race too, considering the ballast we were carrying. We actually got a little bit of wheel damage, which kind of made the car turn slightly better around right-handers. So I think it kind of helped with handling of the car. And yeah, we were catching the midfield up by about a second a lap in that one. So yeah, we managed to recover it to a P12, which obviously meant we were in a good position to get a good grid spot for race 3.
Oh, indeed, and interesting with regards to that damage on the car, perhaps aiding you carrying a little bit more speed through the corners and just being able to rotate the car faster. And just on that recovery, I have to ask, were there particular places you found on this circuit where you could make moves more easily, given the fact it's proven to be a very difficult circuit to not just get an overtake underway, but to confirm the overtake? Normally you can go too wide, but the defending driver normally does hold on to the place.
Yeah, it's probably the toughest circuit we've been to this year. For overtaking cleanly, because the corners are so fast that the braking zones aren't very long, they're very minimal, and you're not actually on the brakes very hard. So to complete a move, if you haven't already got alongside someone before the corner, is not really going to happen, because the outside car is just going to hold you off around the outside. And then there's a lot of left-hand corners which flow into right-hand corners. So if you've got the outside for one corner, you'll have the inside for the following corner. So the best way, I think, the easiest way I found to overtake round here was to try and get a good exit onto some of the long straights and kind of complete the move by the time you get down to the next corner. That way you weren't really lunging anyone on the brakes and doing anything naughty to try and get past them.
I see. Definitely interested to hear your perspective there on overtaking and re-bring it to life. And with regards to that, of course, race number 3 then coming up, and the reverse grid today being a P18 reverse grid, meant that you were starting from what was towards the back end of the top 10, albeit with the leaders firmly in your sights, and you very quickly went to work in making place up. In fact, I think gaining at least 3 places on the opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, race threes generally for me has been our Achilles heel, kind of getting the rough end of the reverse grid draw, carrying a lot of ballast, being back in the pack, and getting embroiled in battles that we really shouldn't, and sometimes resulting in accidents. So it was quite nice to actually get some decent points out of race 1 and 2 and still have a good grid position for race 3, obviously carrying no ballast. So I knew that the car was going to be quick, and considering how we'd gelled with the track earlier on in the evening, I had high hopes for the race. So yeah, it was just about getting through the first lap or two cleanly whilst everyone was still close. We managed to put the car in the right place and kind of carve our way through a little bit, and then I was just taking my time. I didn't want to take any risky moves to get past the guys that were leading at the time, because I knew that the pace was there to eventually force them into a mistake and get past them cleanly. So that's kind of what we sat on and waited for that to happen. And then once we got in the lead, just wanted to put down some decent laps to build the gap to the rest of the pack. But no, it's great to come away from a win and finish the night on a high.
Oh, indeed, and a very controlled drive to victory in the final race of the day, and just leading the way as we do see those pictures in the background right now of you just gradually open up that advantage even halfway into the race. And of course, with the results today, and going into tonight, you were third place in the overall championship. We do have to keep in mind that drop scores are going to be factored into the results going into the season finale. But whether you're P3, P2, or however close you are, it is going to be a close battle for that championship crown. How are you feeling going into that season finale at Bathurst? Given the fortunes you've had, the misfortunes you've had, it definitely has been an up and down season.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way the championship is designed now with the success ballast. I think that Jamie and the guys at NXTGEN have really got it spot on in terms of the formatting of the ballast. We've had some experiments with ballast being just on certain manufacturers, or you have to carry the ballast for the whole evening, which kind of was really penalising last season. But to have the ebb and flow and people carrying ballast for one race and then losing it for the next means that you get proper touring car style action where you've got cars coming through the pack as it should be. So going into Bathurst, I think it's probably going to be between myself, my brother Joseph, and Dan. I'm be interested to see how the points look after tonight, and I think, to be honest, if P1, 2 or 3 ballast going into Bathurst may make a bit of a difference, because there's a lot of hills and undulation changes there and quick change of direction. So it's going to be tough. It's not a track for the faint-hearted. I think there'll be a lot of luck involved as well, because we're going to see some safety cars around there. I'm sure of it. There's going to be some accidents to avoid, and I think it'll be whether you get the rub of the green or not, or the rub of the mountain, as it will be there, as to whether you get through it unscathed or not.
It's definitely, like you say, going to be an enticing one there, with even the smallest of safety car periods perhaps turning the racing on its head. And well, we definitely look forward to seeing what you can bring to the table in the season finale, and whether you can make it your second NXTCC crown after just missing out on result countback as of last season. But still, Mikey, with that round to go in a week's time, we wish you all the best in your preparations for that. Last question for you is, as always, have you got anybody you'd like to give a thank you or a shout out to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, as always, to family that are watching, mum and dad watching downstairs, grandparents watching from home, anyone else that I know that's watching, hello. Thanks to you as always for great broadcasts. I know everyone enjoys tuning into it. And thanks to NXTGEN as always for organising a great event. It's definitely the highlight of my week when the racing off season is on, so it keeps us real racing drivers tuned in and give us something to race for. But no, it's just a lot of fun to come and do this on a Tuesday, whether we have a good evening or not. But yeah, one more to go and looking forward to it.
We 100% look forward to seeing you on circuit in Australia in a week's time to bring it all to a close and whether you can make that championship crown come your way. But until then, Mikey, it's been a pleasure as always to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on a sensational set of results today. Great to see you right back in top form, and we'll may that continue into the season finale. But until then, have a great rest of your evening and all the best as always.
Thanks, Paul. See you then.
So hearing that there from Mikey Doble, our pro driver from Doble Sim Racing, who today absolutely delivered when it mattered most. Going into the qualifying session and talking about the fact he only had purchased the circuit on the iRacing simulator platform going into tonight, and therefore having to learn the circuit quickly and finding the intricacies of the circuit similar to his favourite circuit in the United Kingdom, Thruxton. And that really being echoed in the fact that very quickly rising his way up the ranks, albeit with the success ballast in the car, not really able to break strongly into the top 10 in qualifying, but everything clicked in the closing stages and put the car P2 on the grid. It was never quite going to be enough to perhaps dethrone McCluskey from pole, given the fact McCluskey had gone into tonight with no weight in the car and a lot of pace under his own fingertips, but still, for Mikey, the focus was on taking points off of Dan Mould and also his rival, but brother at the same time, of Joseph Doble. And doing that in race number 1 with that P4 finish, and in race number 2, despite losing out after the shunt from behind in the early stage of the race, still being able to recover, finding the places to overtake and making those overtakes count. And that P12 finish meant he got points, but also no weight going into the final race. And whichever way the reverse grid went, it would set up quite ideal circumstances. And we did see a number of you, particularly in the YouTube chat, putting your money on Mikey to take the lead of race number 3 quite early on. And has been seeing the pictures here, doing exactly that and running away with a victory. And this victory could definitely put him right back up there at the very top of those standings going into the season finale. And talking about Bathurst as well, it's a big unknown for the simple reason it only takes one big error from drivers over the mountain to bring out the safety car or see multiple drivers' races ruined in the 3 races of the day. And well, for Mikey, he'll definitely be getting his head down, getting the practice on and thinking one thing and one thing only, one race at a time, make every race count, because this championship is not over yet. And will it be him raising the trophy come the end of our season finale? Well, when we had that question being pondered, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we now get ready to hear from our second interviewee, and I'm pleased to say we do now have a third interviewee available in the form of Ian Manners from JW Motorsport in the Pram class. We will hear from him in due course, but first we need to hear from a driver who definitely had some fortune to begin with, but then the fortune went away from him as the day went on, and that is going to be none other than Alex Meredith, who gets ready to join me in the interview room, and we're here with the perspective from the Chemical E Motorsport driver on what has been a difficult day at the big Willow layout of Willow Springs. As he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Alex. It seems as though Willow Springs has not necessarily been the kindest of circuits today. A great qualifying lap and a reasonable race 1 and 2, but race number 3 just didn't seem to go your way. And really, I would say perhaps the results in general just not where you expect them to be at this circuit.
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Just a pretty frustrating night for me, really. I feel like my driving standards personally weren't the best they've been. I think I had a bit of a deficit of pace compared to some of the people I was racing against, and my mistake in race 3 basically ruined my race when I was in, I think it was going to be P5 once I overtook. I can't remember who it was now, but I was pretty close to overtaking them. Just made a mistake. Yeah, I'll get onto that later, but yeah, obviously extremely frustrated with myself.
Indeed, frustrated, but still, let's talk about some of the highlights and the positives. It's always good to dwell on both. And, well, qualifying P7 on the overall grid, and what was in class a P3 in class. It looked as though you hooked things up quite early, and we did see in the early stages of qualifying, it looked like you were on form for a top 10, given your name kept propping up inside the top 5 for the most part.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised with my quali lap, if I'm honest, because in practice I didn't have too much pace. I think I was following, Jamie, which helped because he obviously knows the track a little bit better than me. So following him really helps, and I got the slipstream down the straight as well. So I think I gained about 8/10 on my previous best lap in practice. So that was a big surprise to me. I tried to beat that lap again and again. It just didn't come after that really. So that lap was, I thought it was going to be my best, and it was my best by the end. So pretty happy with that.
And I have to ask, with regards to this Willow Springs circuit, were there any parts of it that you found as though were perhaps the most challenging in terms of perhaps individual corners or corner sequences around here? Because this seems to be in a circuit that's really caught many out today in terms of just how it looks so simple on paper, but once you're out there on the tarmac, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought when I bought it this weekend. I looked at it and went, oh, this won't be too difficult. As soon as I got on it, I was like, well, well, it's definitely difficult. I'd definitely say I think the end of Sector 1, going up the hill and then immediately switching back down the hill just to that peak, it's extremely difficult to get the correct line down there. And also, especially racing against other cars, it's very difficult to know where people are going to be. And obviously the curbs as well are absolutely deadly. And I, for one, broke my suspension in race 1 as well.
Well, unfortunate there. And well, going into race number 1, and what was a relatively okay start and fighting for the P7 and around the bottom end of the top 10. And well, on the opening couple of laps, too wide of plenty between drivers, and you're having to juggle the width of your car, the width of your rival, and also making sure not to touch any of those pesky curves. It's not the easiest combination I can imagine when you're running around here in excess of 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I went a little bit wide. I think maybe it was lap 3. That kind of sacrificed me to everybody else because going up into turn 2, you need a lot of momentum, and obviously going wide basically ruined my momentum. So I got very swamped there. And then there are a couple of, I'd say, iffy bits of racecraft from some people. I felt like I got forced wide on a particular move, but you know that's touring car racing, I guess, and I still got a decent result, so I can't really complain too much.
Very true. A P13 overall, and translating in class into what was, I do believe, a P5 in class. A great way to start off the day. And race number 2, seeing a little bit of shuffling around you, but a P14 finish, a P6 in class. Looks as though there you end up scrapping quite a bit over the course of the race distance and really just getting stuck in with the racing.
Yeah, race 2 was going quite smoothly, to be fair. So having some great racing. It was relatively clean. And onto the final lap, I was under pressure from Paul Scott. I think going into the hairpin, I think I turned in, and he went for a move, and he just tapped me out wide. I'm not sure whose fault it was. I think it might have been a racing incident, but yeah, I got forced wide, and yeah, got demoted to P14, which in hindsight wasn't too bad for the reverse grid.
Indeed, and close batting out, and unfortunately you couldn't quite convert the result you coveted all the way through the race, but still, like you say, a P14, P6 in class, and not a bad starting position for an eventual top 18 at a reverse grid. So you'd be starting at P5 in the final race of the day, and to begin with, it looked as though it was going quite well, and also you found yourself in the end with quite a long pack of cars behind, and a lot of pressure as we look at the pictures currently, coming from a close rival in the form of Matthew Addy.
Yeah, I was under huge pressure for, well, the amount of race 3 that I did. Yeah, obviously Matthew was right on my tail the whole time. I think he started to drop off eventually, and I started to pick up the pace a little bit. I was catching up with the guys ahead. And then obviously the mistake, I just went down the inside at the final corner. I just understeered slightly too wide and just spun on whoever was there. I just spun on their front axle, and then trying to come back onto the track. I went past the yellow cone for the pit entry, so that effectively meant that iRacing thought I'd enter the pit and sped in the pit. So I got I think it was a 1.5 minute penalty for that. So that's pretty annoying.
Oh, goodness me, that's a very frustrating way for the race to come to an abrupt end after what was really an opportunity for you to fight for a top finish overall, plus also a top 5 in class, and definitely a feel for you in that regard. So not the way you've wanted it to end here at Willow Springs Raceway, but still some good results out there in races 1 and 2, and I think really now building you up for the season finale in a week's time at Bathurst. How are you feeling for a trip down under?
Terrified. I think we're all pretty terrified, to be honest, because we all know that as soon as we make one mistake, it's going to be extremely costly, not only for ourselves but for everybody else, especially up the tight mountain section. So I think all of us need to practice a little bit extra for this race, and then hopefully it'll be clean. Hopefully pick up some good results. Hopefully just avoid all the mayhem.
Indeed, it could be a little bit chaotic at Bathurst, but one thing that you'll need to keep as cool as a cucumber for is the battle in the Higgins Automotive Championship. Going into tonight, P10, and we'll appreciate your target this season was originally to be pushing towards the top 3, or if not, at least the top 5. But still, I have to ask, how are you feeling going into the finale 9? The top 10 is definitely on the cards. Do you think you can go a bit higher than that?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely I can go higher than 10th, I think. Obviously, I missed 2 rounds, so that's immediately put me, a round back, including the drop round. So I'm not going to be fighting up there where I wanted to, but it's just the way things have panned out that I missed a couple of rounds. Hopefully next season I can put a full challenge in. Every race I've been getting more used to the Elantra and how it handles, so I've just been getting quicker and quicker, and I've been learning a lot along the way in terms of racecraft. So I think next season is going to be my main challenge.
Well, we do look forward to what's coming next season from yourself, and still we look forward to what's coming next week as you try to end your championship campaign on a high and lay the foundations for season 5. But just before we do let you go, Alex, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, my parents for always watching and always supporting me. Massive thanks to you guys. Everybody at NXTGEN for holding this league. It's always just so much fun. Even if it doesn't go my way, sometimes it's always just so much fun. Obviously Chemi Tool as well. Massive thanks to them. And you, Paul, as well, for your amazing commentary. Thank you.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room as always. And whilst the pesky yellow cone may have held you up in race number 3, I'll tell you one thing, it's never a down day when you join me in the interview room, and I think all the guys and girls tuning in at home will agree. Congratulations on what were your brilliant battling performances in races 1 and 2 and race 3 whilst it was going well, and we look forward to seeing if you can continue that form to Bathurst in a week's time. But until then, we wish you a fantastic rest of your evening and all the best in your preparations for the final round.
Thanks, Paul. You too.
So hearing there from the Chemi Tool e-motorsport driver Alex Meredith, and you can understand, I think, why he perhaps sounds a little bit downbeat, as we saw the footage there of what happened to trigger that extended pit penalty in terms of having to take 1.5 minutes of stop and go for quote-unquote speed in the pit lane, and it was simply because he drove on the wrong side of the yellow pit entry cone. It happens. Even the best out there in each of the classes in the NXTCC will make mistakes like this, and you can understand the heat of the moment. He just wanted to go back to the racing and saw it as the safest way to rejoin. Unfortunately, not the way he wanted the day to end, but also a lot of positives there, particularly in qualifying and gelling to the track quite rapidly, albeit realising the circuit was not as simple as it looked on paper, but it didn't stop the Elantra driver from Chemi Tool e-motorsport of really putting in a solid lap. Races 1 and 2 find himself in amongst the battling and a little bit of rough and tumble with other drivers out there, admitted, but still at the same time taking the results forward from race to race, and that's the thing that really has personified Alex's season, and the fact that when the going has got tough, he's toughened up and continued to grit his teeth and push forward. And we'll race number 3, I think just a bit too much in terms of what happened, but still classified as a finisher. He did complete over half the race distance, and it will will mean that he won't quite pick up any points given the fact that he finished P16 in the class when all positions are adjusted. But still, there's another round to go, and he'll be looking to reset, get ready, and go on the full attack up the mountain at Mount Panorama. And can he come home with a great end to his season? I'm sure many will be rooting for him, and hopefully he'll make it a reality. But now coming on to our final interview of the day, ladies and gentlemen, a man who we spoke to much earlier on in today's broadcast when we had the opportunity to do so. And now we're going to hear from him again, and it is going to be an opportunity to give a bit of a reflective interview for Ian Manners from JW Motorsport as to how he feels now after all the races are complete. He joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you once again, Ian. We spoke earlier this evening after race number 1. You're saying you're not quite sure how you're going to repeat your achievements of race number 1, but now all 3 races are done. You've had arguably the best performance of the day of any driver, and on top of that, the best performance of the Pro-Ams, as you did receive the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day accolade for Willow Springs. You must feel as though you're on cloud 9 right now.
Yes, I usually struggle to get 3 good races in one meeting. It's usually 1 out of 3, so I was quite pleased with that. Yeah, thanks to John for that. Race 1, I was really pleased with that. Good start, had some good battling. I think it probably helped that the guys around me all had weight as well. So I think that held them at bay a little bit, and I had no weight at all. Race 2, it didn't go quite so well. It started off okay, but I rubbed one of the curbs and bent the steering after about 4 or 5 laps. So I did 3/4 of the race with the steering out of position, which wasn't so much fun, and I made a few little mistakes, and the car was just that little bit harder to drive. And then race 3 was a bit of a bun fight, but it was really enjoyable.
We'll come to race 3 shortly, because I think everybody wants an answer to the question, which is how on earth you survived that move into turn number 4, and I'm going to put it out there, perhaps the move of the season, but we will come to that in due course. But let's start off a little bit with qualifying. The Honda Civic Type R has been known as a car that's very strong through the corners, but perhaps not as strong on the straights. But around here,
yes,
taking P4 on the grid, definitely making the car look well. Some of your rivals around you definitely had weight in the car, but there's no denying you seem to just be able to carry the speed around here. It looks like Willow Springs is a circuit you enjoy.
It's the first time I've ever raced here. The car was very nice out the last corner and P2. They were definitely the strengths, but going round 8 and going up to the last corner down that straight, it was awful. The cars, everything behind me all caught up with me, and then I could pull away a little bit in the middle of the corner. So yeah, that's definitely where its strengths were, through the corners. I have to thank my my teammate Reese, because we sort of ran together and had a nice little tow off him for the last lap to get onto P4. So that helped as well.
Well, as they say, teamwork makes the dream work, and then the dreams come into life in race number 1. And from your perspective, that race start, we spoke to Mikey Doble earlier. Of course, the velocities on the front row of both Mikey and also Benjamin McCluskey, they seem to both stall at the start, whereas yourself and Russell Fowler had brilliant launches by comparison, and we know this Honda goes so well off the line. I have to ask, how did you react to that scenario? Because I don't think anybody expected the second row to get the better launch.
No, I was quite surprised actually, and I was then it was a real good battle with Mikey at the start, because I think he got back past me. To be honest, it's one of the reasons I drive the Honda, because it's one of the few TCRs that I can actually get off the line. All the rest I can't particularly well. The Honda just suits me. It just starts really well. I have a lot of faith in it. I mean, I've been driving it now for 3 iRacing seasons, so it's pretty much all I drive. So I'm very used to it, which does help. But it was a good battle. Mikey got past me. I learned a few things off him, which I should have taken into the last race of where to get past. But it was clean fighting. And I just was sort of keeping him at bay through like T4, which helped. But as I said, coming up to the last corner, I was really having to fight off people there, because the velocity was definitely so much faster through there. They caught up. If I sat behind people. I never towed up behind them where everybody else was towing up behind me. But the last corner, I could just about eke it out. It's one of those ones where the good corners, I'd eke it out, and then they close up, and then you pull away and close up. So it sort of turned into one of those races. But I had 3 good starts. Didn't quite make a place up in the last race. Got a little bit blocked, but I took places on both starts. So I was quite happy with that.
Indeed, and you're right to be happy about that. It's always good to make a place or two when you go green flag racing. And coming on to race number 2, so now moving into a race with the best part of almost 50 kilograms of success ballast, and it looked as though for quite some time you could have even been on for an overall win. But then the last couple of laps, I think the tyres may have gone off of the car or something started to go, because it just looked as though the Honda couldn't quite give you that final 5%.
Yeah, it was. I was actually quite surprised that I was keeping the 3 or 4 laps. I was doing all right, and then I got the last corner just slightly wrong. Didn't quite get onto power early enough, which gave whoever's behind me a run on me. And then I said I rubbed a curb. It wasn't even a particularly hard hit, and that sort of bent the steering about 4 or 5 degrees. And it just upset the car a little bit. It was still driving all right, but I then got T1 wrong about 4 times. And that just is a struggle after that.
Was very unfortunate, and that curb impact, even though it was a rub, just spoiling the feel of the car, but still doing everything right to hold on to a P5 overall and what was a P2 in class behind Russell Fowler. And then going into race number 3, a top 10... It's not a top 10, a top 18 at reverse grid, we should say, and finding yourself starting right towards the back of that grid, so quite a way to go. And well, for the best part of about 11 of the 14 laps, the top 15 being separated by the best part of approximately what was 5 seconds if you exclude the top 3 that were running away up front.
Yes, it was quite a train. I actually went backwards at the start. I think I lost about 3 or 4 places. Slowly started getting them back. It was again, it's one of those things. I was really T2. I was very good round there, and then the cars in front were a little bit slower because they were fighting into 3 and 4, which then slowed me up, which then gave usually Nick a run behind me, who then sat fighting with me down 5 and 6. So it was a bit of a struggle, and it kept happening lap after lap. It's that thing of it's very hard to get past people. There isn't very many overtaking places. T1's quite good. T3, you really have to go around the outside there, which so you can defend in 2-2. So it's actually quite hard to get past people. That's what I found. But it was a lot of fun. I have to say that.
It definitely looks as though you're enjoying yourself in amongst the battling there, and as we look at the pictures of yourself and Nick Clibbins, the iRacing Esports Elantra, having the back and forth and the different complexions of the cars, as the race got to its closing stages, we did start to see a bit of elbows out between drivers in front, and it looked as though the train was now starting to break up and those places were coming. I have to ask, at that point, you think to yourself, okay, you know what, I've got to try and get closer and get in the thick of this, because I know places will be gradually being gifted to other drivers.
Yes, because I think I managed to take Jamie, who went a little bit wide out of T9. I knew my best place was T2 because I went round the outside of somebody a couple of times there, but that then put you onto the inside of T3, which is the wrong place. Because they can go, when you go around T3, they then get the inside for T4, and it's not really an overtaking place there. So it was a case of really trying to get onto the back of people, but the cars in front were always defended into 2. So it was like rinse and repeat around the outside, can't get past around the outside. So it was one of those sort of hoping people made mistakes, which eventually happened on the last lap.
Speaking of which, you've just said only moments ago that overtaking on the inside to turn 4 is not quite perhaps appropriate. And then you go ahead on the last lap and do a double overtake on the inside of turn number 4. Just take us through your perspective of that, because, my goodness, I've never seen such a perhaps unexpected, but also at the same time a miraculous move, and only it would seem that you could make it happen.
The 2 I was trying the jelly line, I think was the from the British touring cars last weekend. The two cars in front were battling. They went side by side, and then they sort of stopped on the outside of 4, which I either had to wait, or the only place was on the inside of the corner, and it got tighter and it got tighter and tighter. I had Michael on the outside, and to give him due, he gave me some room on the exit, but I think he was got a little bit unfortunate with contact with the car on the outside, which then gave me the space not to have to worry, because I think I probably would have had to given it, because I think he was slightly ahead going into 5. That would have been interesting, shall we say, going into 5.
Oh, most definitely, but still pulling it off, and a superb move, as you say, up the inside there, and an absolutely committed move as well. And then with that final lap just gradually coming on down, I think after that it was more of a sit back, defend, and just not think about any more places.
Yes, it was. I was too far behind the cars in front. I was more than happy to come out of it in one piece, if I'm being honest. So, just to get the result, P10 was probably a little bit more than I expected, but I pulled up to the cars, but I think they were battling. They looked like there was a lot of fun going on in front of me, so which did help because it slows them down a little bit and brings them back to us. But yeah, it was an enjoyable race.
Oh, indeed, and an enjoyable race for yourself, but also for your team, JW Motorsport. Major points coming from yourself, and the team as a whole looking as though they've actually picked up quite a few points today. And in that battle for the top 5 of the team's championship, it's going to go into the season finale, of course. But this could be the day where JW Motorsport may even be looking now at P4 versus Sam Case of the NXTGEN.
Yes, so we did quite a good team effort. We helped each other during practice. Reese, I think he had some good races and he had some not so good races. Luke's been away on holiday with his feet up, I think, for a little bit, so he's a little bit rusty. But I think he enjoyed himself when he came back in. So as a team, yeah, we work together. We have a bit of fun as well. That's the main thing. It's a bit of enjoyment.
Oh, 100%. That's what it's all about. And of course, one more round of enjoyment to come in a week's time at the Mountain in Bathurst. How are you feeling for the season finale?
I don't mind Bathurst so much in a TCL. Well, we'll find out when I drive it. I've driven it quite a few times, and yeah, the hill is can be a lot of fun. Can be quite scary actually, but. I actually quite enjoyed Bathurst. It's not one of my worst tracks, so we'll see how it goes. There could be a little bit of carnage coming up and down the hill. That would be my fear.
Well, it's an understandable one, and we'll have to see how it goes in a week's time. But just before we let you go in, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, obviously like to thank you for the broadcast and NXTGEN as well. I've been doing the legs for 2 or 3 seasons now. It's always a lot of fun. It's competitive, but it's usually done in the right atmosphere, so I really enjoy it. Obviously, the teammates, Reese for helping me with the quali today. They've helped me along, and I'd like to shout out to Alan as well, who's somebody from one of my other Discords who comes along, supports me, usually giving me a load of grief on how badly I'm doing. So give a shout out to him.
Well, I don't think he's going to be giving you any grief today in the YouTube chat with regards to your performance, because you really have been the star of the show today. And congratulations once again on making it a overall P2 in race 1, plus also the prime class win, a runner-up in the prime class in race number 2, plus the overall P5, and then also finishing inside the top 10 in race number 3, and perhaps the overtake of the season, all coming together to make you the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. A wonderful day of racing for yourself, and we look forward to plenty more in the season finale. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and all the best in your season finale preparations.
Thanks a lot.
So hearing there from Ian Manners from JW Motorsport, and what a day it has been today for the number 52 driver in the Honda Civic Type R, in the fact that going into today, I think he expected to do quite well coming to grips with the circuit, but when the pace came down in qualifying and working with his teammate Reese Watt in order to deliver that qualifying lap and putting the car up there on the second row of the grid, it started a story which has unfolded with absolutely scintillating series of experiences, in the fact taking P2 in race number 1. And a great start as well, battling hard with Mikey Doble and Russell Fowler, keeping him honest as well, but taking that Pro-Am class win and that P2 overall. I mean, then race number 2 is carrying a lot of weight in the car, and for the most part of race number 2, minus that error, we did clip one of the race curbs. He could have been able to repeat it, perhaps even could have made it an overall win, and goodness me, that would have been a story in of itself, but still held on to P5 overall in the end and second place in the class. And in race number 3, despite losing places early on, fought back in the long trainer cars, which you're seeing in these replay pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and picking off drivers one by one when they've been in their own battles or made mistakes. And that is the sign of a superstar here, and that's why he's the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day, because today Ian really has been on a class of his own. And well, there's been a little bit of a running joke which always seems to happen when a Pro-Am driver has a great day in the office, which is they start to put hashtag driver's name for Pro, and I've already seen a few hashtag Manners for Pro or Ian for Pro, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gents, when he has put on a Pro performance today, he'll stay in the Pro-Am class for the remainder of this season. And can he end his season on a high at Bathurst, and can he help JW Motorsport go on to finish P4 in the team's championship? I think he definitely can. I think the team are well on course for it, but it's going to be a close battle with Sam Case for the next gen, but it'll all come down there in the season finale for the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day driver and his teammates in a week's time. So with that, that concludes our post-round interviews today, and you've heard from the trio of Mikey Doble and the 88 for Doble Sim Racing, and the Pro Class drive being followed up by the Pro-Am pair, starting McKenry Torty Motorsports' Alex Meredith, and then Ian Manners for JW Motorsport, our Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day. Congratulations to all three of them for their fantastic performances today, and we look forward to plenty more from them in their season finale races. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking, well, with Season 5 surely being around the corner, you'd like to know a little bit more about what's to come, and perhaps you'd like to sign up for the next season of racing, or perhaps you just want to know what else we've got in the pipeline here at NXTGEN Racing. Well, firstly, we recommend you check out our website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and as you'll see it briefly on screen, here is our website. It's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and we at NXTGEN Racing have been hosting leagues for over 16.5 years, almost at our 17th year anniversary, both on PC and console previously, but now we are primarily PC focused on iRacing. As we continue to go from strength to strength, we'd love to have you as part of our journey here at NXTGEN Racing. Whether you're just part of the community, where you're racing our series, or alternatively, if you want to get more involved, we'd love to have you on board here at NXTGEN Racing. So do check out our website. Alternatively, if you don't want to go to our website necessarily, perhaps you're more of a social media person, then the best thing to do is follow us on Facebook. In particular, our Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, where you can find out all the same information that's available on our website, but you can also find out a little bit more about the staff and admin members at NXTGEN Racing in terms of what we do, not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real world circuit, with a good number of our team being part of the volunteer track marshal group that helps run events, I should say, in the world of motorsport, and also a number of our staff members being real world racing drivers. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, particularly our title sponsor for this season being Higgins Automotive, and their web address there for their Facebook group on screen. And Higgins Automotive is all about that if you're in the market for a car that is as good as new, then Higgins Automotive is the place to go to. Specialists in car restoration, the team's meticulous efforts to see many a car go from salvage to sale faster than you can do 0 to 60. So if you'd like to know more and see what stock they have available, be sure to check out Higgins Automotive on Facebook, their web address there again. And thank you to John Higgins Sr. for joining me to provide the Higgins Automotive Driver of the Day announcement earlier in today's broadcast. For now, ladies and gentlemen, attention's finally turned to the season finale that all roads have led to. It'll be in Australia in a week's time on Tuesday the 24th of October, and Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit near the town of Bathurst will be the crowning jewel for our Drivers' Champions and our Teams' Champions. All three championships are still wide open. There are no favourites in any of the championships. It is going to go down to the wire on the mountain, and well, it's going to be drama, but who is going to find the way to make a decisive drive that steers them clear of the drama and steers them to victory? We'll find out then, but until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.